Sorry, y'all. We're going to try that again. Hold on. Yeah. Find my new background first. All right. We're going to try that again. Hold on.
It on. Don't you wish you were my leave? I cheat up the river with Judas. Tearing down the barrel of his gun. Yes, he shot me down. I died and someone brought me back to life, but never to my senses. Pounce on that shit, can pounce on that shit, can.
All right, to anyone coming in, if you come in doing the part, welcome, welcome, welcome. I think somebody else is live. It's okay. So I hope you guys like my background. Ain't it cool? Now I did have this one. Let me try. That's nice. Is it? It does look great for outside because I'm going, but we're going to try that another time later. Let's try this one. I think I like this one a little bit. All right, for anyone coming in, welcome to the channel. Hello, new subscribers. Welcome, 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 welcome. Okay, so we are here to talk about on Yika A. She is from Bachelor. She made a mistake by marrying a con artist. Now, she did her journey, and it is called the Danish of Deception, which is going viral all over TikTok at the moment and things of that nature. So we're going to go step into her world, and we're going to pause and do a reaction and talk about it. It is going to be a long live, so let's start. Let's go. Let me share my screen, and we can get into it.
I will be calling the Danish Deception. And throughout this series, I'm going to be going through the details and events that happened throughout my 3-year relationship with a man from Denmark who I truly believed was going to be the love of my life and the father of my children. And I now believe him to be the most despicable, two-faced, narcissistic, evil person I have ever encountered.
Now, she was on The Bachelor looking for love. She married a con artist. She was in like 20,000 or more. And we're going to let her tell her story.
My entire life. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking that's a very heavy statement to make. Believe me, I mean every single word. I know a lot of you are probably wondering, why are you sharing your life's most intimate and traumatic experience with a sea of strangers? Well,
Hey,
there's a
Terry.
multitude of reasons, but there's 3 big ones. And I'm going to share with you the first 2 reasons. And the third one, I'm going to wait and share with you at the end of the series because I don't want to give anything away. But the first reason is that this is my way of telling the world that love is a powerful, powerful drug. And if you're someone that's knowingly or unknowingly in an unhealthy or toxic relationship, I want you to know that love is a powerful drug, and it clouds our judgment, and it makes us think in ways we wouldn't think otherwise. And if you're someone that's also trusted the wrong person, you're not alone, and you need to give yourself grace and compassion because it happens.
Thank you, Terry.
The second reason is that this is my way of protecting others, and whether it be someone that might encounter my ex, or let's be real, there's some horrible people in this world. I want to protect other people from going through what I went through. And if there's one person that can watch these videos and see some signs in their relationship that they didn't see before, and they can remove themselves before too much damage is caused, then it's 100%.
I want to let you guys know she is Nigerian. She is from the tribe Ibu, I heard. I hope I said it right. Ibu. And she is one of the Nigerians that looks at their, like Wendy, Safo, where, hey, you got to be a doctor. Hey, you come into class and money or things of that nature. So she's from that class. There's a lot of Nigerians that do that when they look at their kids like, oh, they have to do this, okay?
Worth it for me to do what I'm doing. What you guys are about to hear is going to be one of the most beautiful love stories you've ever heard in your entire life. And for that reason, I need to make sure you guys all prepare yourselves because it's going to take a very drastic turn. And this is going to be one of the most insane roller coaster of emotions that you guys have been on.
Well, let's get to it.
The Danish Deception Part 1. Okay. So it all started in June of 2022. I was in a place in my life where I was working 2 jobs. I was working like a dog and I knew I needed a break. So I reached out to my friend, Sarah, who was living in Germany at the time with her husband. And I said, let's take a trip. Let's go somewhere in Europe. And she was so down. And we were trying to decide where we wanted to go. And we decided to go to Hvar, Croatia, because we wanted somewhere that was like a cute local town that was by the water, but it wouldn't be as crazy busy as other places in Europe. And so we decided to go to Hvar. We flew to Split first, met there, took a ferry over. And at first I was just so amazed at how beautiful this place was. And so the first night I was a little bit jet lagged. So we kept it very chill, grabbed dinner, then went back to our Airbnb. And the next morning when we woke up, we had literally 2 things on our agenda. And that was to eat and drink and be by the water. And well, I guess that's 3 things, but yeah, eat, drink, and be by the water. So we went to Hula Hula, which if you've been to Hvar, you've been to Hula Hula. It's this beach club that's very well known there and it's right on the water. And we're laying in day beds kind of off to the side, minding our own business, sipping mojitos. And I look up and I see this very attractive man. And the first thing that came to my mind was, this man looks like he is walking straight out of a Calvin Klein ad. And I'm telling you guys, 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes, chiseled skin, so tan, muscles everywhere. I was definitely taken aback. And I feel like it takes a lot for me to really double take a man just based on his looks like that. And 100%, I was a little bit just in awe. I didn't even realize that he was like with a friend at first. And so I'm still minding my own business, keeping it chill. And he looks over at me and he says, how are the drinks? And I said, the drinks are wonderful. We're just sipping mojitos. He said, should I get us all around? And I said, absolutely. Number 1, he's cute. Number 2, who wouldn't want a free mojito? So I said yes. Okay. We got a round of drinks and we're sipping our drinks and we just start small talking. And I asked them where they're from. And they say that they're both from Denmark. My ex was living in Copenhagen, and then his friend was living in a smaller town called Aalborg, which is north of Copenhagen. And that was actually my ex's hometown, that his friend was still living there. And so we were just small talking the whole time. We didn't really talk about a whole lot of things. It was just like, where are you from? And just basic things. But they were asking us, what's your plan for the rest of the trip? And we told them, you know, we're doing a full day boat excursion tomorrow. And then we're going to dinner tonight at this place called Dalmatino. And he said, oh, how's the dinner spot? And I was like, I don't know, but I got recommended by a friend to go there. And he was like, okay, well, maybe we'll meet up with you guys again later. And I said, sure. So we're getting a little bit tired. So we decided that it's time for us to leave. And so as we're leaving, I decide to make a bold move and just ask him for his Instagram. And obviously I'm trying to be a little sly. So I asked him and his friend for their Instagrams. And we exchange Instagrams. We get into our taxi to go back to our Airbnb. And we're literally en route to our Airbnb. And I get a DM from him. And he basically said, it was so nice meeting you. Have fun at Dalmatino. Maybe we'll see you guys later. Didn't read anything into it. I just was like, it was fun to just have a conversation with a cute guy. And so we go back to our Airbnb. We get dressed. We get ready for dinner. And we're like, on our way to dinner, and he is like messaging me about the restaurant and asking us details about it. I didn't like think anything of it. But we sit down, we're having dinner. We have a spectacular dinner and we're finishing off the evening with our desserts, AKA espresso martinis. And I'm sipping my drink and I look up and I see him and his friend at the restaurant. And they walk up over to us and I'm like, oh, hey. He's like, yeah, like they're a little booked up, but they said they can like seat us in like 20 minutes. I was like, oh, cool. Well, we're about to be done, but we'll go grab a drink. Maybe we can like meet up later. And he said, okay, sounds good. So it's kind of awkward timing because we were finishing up dinner while they like hadn't even been sat yet. And so we went to a bar across the street and we were grabbing drinks, and I just like, I hit a wall and I was like, okay, now I need to go to sleep. And I was super jet lagged. And so I sent him a DM just basically saying, hey, we are so tired. We have a full boat excursion tomorrow. I don't think we're going to stay out much later. And he was like, that's totally fine. And so the next day we wake up, we get on the boat, and I start obviously posting like all my cute photos. Like, remember I took a photo driving the boat, and like, we were just, having fun. And I was like looking at my Instagram story, and I see he's like hearting every single story, and like he's responded to a couple of them. I am not the type of person that reads very much into activity on social media like that, but it was something that I noticed. And so, we continued on with that for like a day and a half. And then he reaches out to me and he says, hey, like, what are you guys doing? And at this time, it is our last night in Havar. And he said, what are you guys doing tonight? And I said, we don't really have plans because we didn't. And he said, well, do you guys want to come to dinner with us? And me and my friend were like, absolutely, sure. And she wasn't really down to go. I kind of forced her because I was like, this guy's hot and it's a free dinner. Like,
girl, if she wasn't down to go, I mean, that should have been a sign. But okay, go ahead.
Let's just go. It'll be fun. And so she's a good friend, so she came with me, and we get to the restaurant, and him and his friend are sitting across from each other. So obviously I took the seat next to him. I was sitting across from my friend, and we're sitting there, we're having a wonderful dinner and drinking tons of wine. And I come up with this idea to play this game where I'm asking his best friend to describe what my ex's type was. And because we were obviously like vibing with each other, and I was just curious. And so his best friend starts listing off everything, like good morals, hard worker, all these things. And like, I felt like he was describing me. And after his friend was done talking, my best friend basically said, aside from being a good cook, she checks off every single box. And I remember I looked at him, my ex, and I said, but I will become a great cook for a good man. And he starts laughing. I remember I put my hand on his leg, and that was the first time in my life that I felt that instant electricity from someone's touch. Like, it literally felt like I was getting shocked. And we instantly like had this physical attraction towards each other. And we started talking about what we did for work. And I told him that I was working as a real estate agent and in tech. And then he told me, he's like, I'm actually chief commercial officer for a ad tech company that does marketing for real estate companies. So I was working in real estate and tech, and he was working in real estate and tech, and everything just like felt like it was aligning. But again, I'm like, this guy lives in Copenhagen. There's nothing that's going to come from this. So after dinner, we go and grab some drinks at a bar nearby, and we grabbed one drink, and they're definitely gearing up to go back out. And it was our last night, and my friend really did not want to go out. And I am not the type of a girl to ever leave my friend for a man, never in a million years. So I ended up just saying, hey, I think we're going to call it a night and we're going to head out. And he was respectful of that 100%. And I remember we just hugged goodbye and we left, and that was it. And so we're going back to our Airbnb. We're walking home, and I get a DM from him, and he said, it was so nice meeting you. I hope it's not the last time. Also, South Africa is happening. I can see it. And the reason why he said that was because I was telling him that I had wanted to go to South Africa for that following Christmas, and because my family was going to be traveling. And he said, I've always dreamt of going to South Africa. And I jokingly was like, well, you're invited if you want to come. And so whenever he made that comment to me in the DM, I was like, okay, sure. I am not.
You was going to take this new man to Dirty December. You was going to take this man to Dirty December, man. You were taking him to Dirty December. Oh, no, girl.
Thinking anything of it, right? At this point, whatever, like, this guy lives 5,000 miles away from me. I'm not thinking anything of it. So the next day, we my friend goes back to Germany and I go to Barcelona to meet up with some friends. And again, I'm like posting throughout my trip. And every time I look at my phone, it's like he's DMing me, messaging me, and he's continuing all of this. And I'm just a little bit shocked, but also like very interested still at the same time. And he was remembering things that I told him at dinner. Like I had told him that I was going to buy a Chanel bag because I wanted to reward myself for working hard. And he had messaged me and been like, hey, did you get your Chanel bag? And I was literally like drunk off sangrias in my bikini and cover up in the Chanel store when I got that DM. And I sent him a selfie and he said, this is the best photo I've ever seen. And I just like felt like I could just be myself with him already. And, you know, we were just getting along and having good conversation. So again, he doesn't even have my phone number at this point. We were literally just flirting through DMs. So I end up leaving Barcelona the next day and I land and he sends me a message and he said, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to go to Ibiza? And I saw the message and I was like, what? And we will continue in part 2.
All right.
The Danish Deception part 2. Okay. So he sent me this message saying, you should come to Ibiza this weekend. I'm going with a bunch of friends. And he's like, I'll send you the flight. Everything will be paid for. And I thought about it for a second because come on, who wouldn't want to go to Ibiza? And then I thought a couple of reasons why I didn't want to go was mainly because I just bought a Chanel bag. So I was like, I want to work and make more money. And also I felt like this is the type of guy that things come easy for him. And this is not something that's going to be easy for you to obtain. And I didn't want our first weekend to be like just partying together with all of his friends. Like that's not what I wanted. So I ended up telling him no, but I just ended up saying that I needed to work. And I thought he was never going to talk to me again. But somehow this like lit a fire under him and he became even more persistent and he started pursuing me even more. And he was sending me messages like, when are you going to come visit me in Copenhagen? Or I would love to come to Dallas to come see you. And I was just like, who is this man and what's happening? Still not really taking him serious. And then maybe like a couple weeks later, he sends me another message. And at this point, we're still talking pretty consistently on Instagram. We still do not have each other's numbers. And he sends me a message. He says, hey, I have a work conference coming up in Monaco and I would love for you to come. And I read that message and I was like near the south of France, like that Monaco? And he was like, yeah, like I can get you your flight and everything will be taken care of. And I was like, okay, well, give me some time to think about it because I didn't want to say yes on the spot, but I was like, okay, this is something I definitely want to consider. So I thought about it for a while. I talked to my friends about it. I talked to my sisters about it. At first I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. Like, this is crazy. And then over time I started like talking myself into it. And then one morning I woke up and I was like, you know what?
Wait.
Screw it. I'm going to go to Monaco. So I sent him a message and I said, hey, I've decided I'm going to come to Monaco. And he sends me a message. He said, this is the best day ever. I'm so happy. Send me your passport and everything. I'll book the flight. So I sent him a picture of my passport. And I also was like, oh, and by the way, here's my phone number. He was like, I've been waiting for you.
See why somebody said phone number for passport before phone number. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Yes, friend, you should have got that number first. And on another note, boo boo kitty, you should have booked that yourself or just some kind of way had some worked out. But okay, let's continue.
For you to give this to me for now like weeks. And I said, okay, here you go. Thank you for like inviting me on this trip. So I give him my phone number and he sends me a message and he said, it took you long enough. And I said, oh yeah, well, sorry. I'm just a little bit more reserved when it comes to like dating and men. Like, I just like to make sure like I'm a very intentional person. And he was just so respectful to me. I remember when he was booking the flights and everything, he was like, don't worry, like I'll get you your own hotel room. Like he was just being so respectful. And so I remember our very first phone call so perfectly because it came completely out of the blue. It was like on like a Tuesday and I'm sitting at my work desk and he sends me a message. He's like, can I call you? And I was like, oh, he wants to call me. And I'm like, I'm literally discombobulated, freaking out. Like, what am I going to do when this man actually calls me? But I was like, you need to get together. So he calls me, I answer the phone, and he's actually in a cab to the airport. He's about to go on a work trip. And we were just small talking about our day. And I felt like those like butterflies that I felt whenever we had been together at dinner in Croatia. And I remember getting off the phone with him and I was just sitting there like cheesing, like, which I don't ever do. And I was just, this guy is special. And he sent me a message and he was like, you are so cute. Like, I love talking to you. And I said, I love talking to you too. And so basically from that moment on, we just started talking on the phone all the time, like for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. We started talking about a lot of things, about a lot of different aspects of our lives. He was telling me that, he was living in Copenhagen. He was living in this condo. Obviously, he knew that I lived in Dallas. And then we started talking about past relationships. And I told him, I was very honest. I said, I actually haven't had like a truly serious relationship before. I have always been a very independent person, but I do want to meet someone. I do want to like get married and have kids, but I don't feel like that pressure to like force it. Like, I have such a great example with my parents, and I really want to have like an amazing love in this lifetime. And so I'm going to take my time to find that. And I asked him, like, what's your history with your dating? And he was like, yeah, well, I actually was in a relationship with a girl. We were together for about 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And I actually broke up with her about 4 months before I met you.
Huh?
And I said, oh my gosh, like, the 4 years is a long time. He said, yeah, like it needed to happen for a while. And really what happened was that she told him that she was ready to have kids and he wasn't ready to have kids. And I guess that forced him to realize that she wasn't the one, and they were living together. So it was like a really hard situation to get out of, but he finally was able to do so. And so I was happy to hear that had been about 4 months since they broke up, because if he had said like they had just broken up, I would have been a little bit more hesitant to pursue things, because I know like you go through a breakup, you need time to heal. But I felt like, okay, 4 months should be enough time. And then we started talking about like our families a little bit too. I told him I'm super close with my family. He said, I'm really close with my mom and my little sister. I do have an older sister that I don't talk to. And basically something happened and she was like being like physically abusive, verbally, physically abusive towards his mom. And he decided to cut her out of his life because she's crazy. And I said, listen, I get that. That makes sense. Like, you should not have her in your life. And I think just like over the course of a month, we're talking on the phone for just hours. And I tell people all the time that it felt like we fell in love over the phone, because from the time that I had decided to go to Monaco to the time that I actually left for Monaco, it was a month. And we had this plan that we weren't going to FaceTime at all, because we wanted the next time we saw each other to be in person, which I thought at the time was super romantic. And so, we started talking about like hypotheticals. I remember he told me one day, he said, if we ever end up getting married, you're going to meet the queen. And I remember just like laughing at that comment. And he said, no, I'm being serious. And I said, what do you mean I'll meet the queen? And he said, well, my family has a royal title. And I was like, wait, what? And
I'm going to show y'all a picture of his mama and what she really looked like. Yeah, they didn't have no royal title. I'm just saying, but we're going to continue.
Sent me this link to this site. It's called the Order of the Elephants. And he said, you could do some research and then we can talk about it. And I said, okay. So I start going through the page that he sent me, and I see someone that had the same last name as him, like some old guy from like the 1700s. And I remember taking a screenshot and I said, is this your great great grandpa? And he goes, now you're getting on track. My next question to you is, how's your etiquette? And I was like, I think it's okay. And so I'm sitting here like, who is this man? He's attractive. He has a great job. He has a royal title. Like, is there anything wrong with him at this point? And I have always believed in the term, it's too good to be true. But and I was feeling that 100%. Like, I felt like, when's the other shoe going to drop? But it didn't drop that first month. It was just like, we truly fell in love over the phone. And so we are getting closer and closer to the trip to Monaco, and I start packing. And I feel like that's like when the nerves start hitting me, was when I'm packing, like, oh my goodness, this is actually happening. And I remember my sister was like, you put air tags in like all your bags. And I'm like, I don't need to put air tags in anything. Like, I trust this man. Like, I I know like it's
Girl,
gonna be okay. Like,
I know you laugh.
every part of me felt like so safe with him already, which was crazy because I hadn't really spent much time with him.
Why you didn't put the air tag in your bag? Why? You don't know this man from a can of canola oil, but it don't come in a can. A can of condensed milk. Girl.
And maybe this is trauma from being on The Bachelor. I'm not sure. But I felt very safe with him. And so the day comes where I'm supposed to go on the trip. And so I order my Uber, get to the airport, and I felt like it was kind of like a good sign because I posted that I was at DFW, and one of my really good girlfriends texted me that lives in a different state. She was like, hey, I'm actually in DFW too. And I was like, oh my gosh. So she comes, meets me at my terminal. She's like, where are you going? I go, I'm actually going to Monaco to meet this guy that I met in Croatia. And she was like, this is insane. And so I just felt like seeing that friend was like a good sign. I don't know why. And I ended up just boarding the flight. I remember boarding that first flight. I had a layover in Madrid, but boarding that first flight, I was sitting there and I was like, this shit is really happening. And all the nerves are just taking over, but I'm like, take a chill pill. It's going to be okay. You're going to get there. It's going to be fine. And at that point, I was like, okay, the worst thing that happens is like, he's a crazy person and I have enough money where I can like just book my own hotel and I'll just have a good time by myself. Like it'll be fine. So I like had that backup plan. But yeah, I had my layover in Madrid and then my next flight was to Nice. And so I board my flight to Nice. It was like a really quick flight. And I get to Nice, I land, I get my bags and baggage claim. I sent him a text. I said, I'm here. And I'm rolling both of my bags, about to walk out, freaking out. And let's continue on in the Danish Deception part 3. Okay, so I'm walking out of baggage claim. I have my bags. And at this point, worst case scenarios are playing in my head. I'm like, what if this whole thing is just gonna be so awkward and we're not gonna have that connection like I think we have? But I also told myself, you're gonna have to figure it out and let's just do this. So I walk out of baggage claim and I'm scanning the scene and I see him and everything in me feels peace and joy. And I just make a beeline to him. Like, it's one of those, like I'm walking, but like low-key I'm running. And I finally get to him. He hugs me, but like he picks me off the ground and he's hugging me and I'm hugging him back. And then he puts me down. He looks at me, he goes, hi, Bambi. And that was a nickname he used to call me. And I was like, hi. And we just proceed to make out in the Nice airport for 2 straight minutes. And I am not the type of person to ever do that, but I just felt so much attraction towards him and I just did not care. And I remember that we were in the taxi going to the hotel and we had to put ourselves at like an arm's length because we were just like going at it, like kissing. And I was like, this taxi driver is going to start feeling super uncomfortable. So we're like, we need to stop. And so we get to the hotel, we check in, we get to the hotel room. And let's just say we had a wonderful time multiple times. Mom and Dad, I am so sorry for that part. We ended up going to dinner afterwards. And I just remember sitting here and I was like, I feel like this is my dream come true being here with you. And he said, I feel like this is my dream come true. Like, I'm so grateful to be here. Like, you're like my dream girl. And you're even better than I remembered if that was even possible. And it just felt like everything was aligning perfectly. And so the next day we had a car rental. So we went to Monaco and that's where his work event was. And I remember he told me, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring you to all of the events. And I told him, you know what, I'm going to be in Monaco. So if you can't take me to things, that's fine. I'll just go explore the city. And I remember we get there and he had like a kickoff event, like first things first when we arrived. And so I wasn't invited. I also didn't really want to go. So he went to that and I was just like exploring Monaco. And he sends me a message. He said, hey, you're going to be able to come to the event tonight. Do you have something to wear? And I remember being like, I didn't bring anything like for like a professional cocktail party. He was like, oh, well, we're in Monaco. So you wear whatever. And I said, okay. So I remember I put on this green romper and we went to this hotel. And I remember being super nervous because I'm used to like networking, but not with like Norwegians and like a bunch of people that aren't like fluent in English, which actually people in Norway, they all are fluent in English. I was very impressed. But I just started talking to different agents because these were all real estate agents, and I'm a realtor, so I felt like I could connect with them so well. And I remember I was talking to this man. Me and my ex were talking to this man, and he was like so interested by me, and he said, "Are you coming to the boat party tomorrow?" And I knew there was a boat party coming up the next day, but I also just like assumed I wouldn't be able to go. And I said, "Well," I looked at my ex. I go, "I don't know. Like, am I?" And my ex looks at me. He goes, "Well, you're talking to the CEO, so I think that's fine." And I said, "Oh." The CEO was like, "Yeah, I'd love for you to come." And he was just so nice. And I met so many great people, and also just watching him in his element working. And he's just so charming and charismatic. And everyone, when people talk to him, they're just so fascinated by him, like I was. And so we had a great night. And then the next day was a boat party. And I remember I was just hanging out on the boat, again, just watching him go talk to all these big customers. And I didn't understand a word he was saying, but I just felt like he just looked like he was super smart. And later on that night, I remember they had another event, and I wasn't invited to that event, which is fine, but I came and met up with him afterwards, and we got drinks. And the next day, we decided to head to Saint-Tropez. And I remember we get to the hotel in Saint-Tropez. This hotel is so nice. I've stayed in 5-star hotels before, but like I've never stayed in like 5-star hotels that are like a full suite with like private pool. And I like looked up the room, and it was like 1,500 to like 2,000 euros a night. And I'm like absolutely not used to this. And I remember telling him that, because I'm not the type of person to like walk into something like this and be like, "Oh yeah, like I'm used to this stuff. I'm not going to be fake." So I told him like, I am not used to staying in hotels like this, or like especially specifically suites like this. And he was like, "Well, while we're together, I want you to know, like, I want to give you the world." And I was like, thank you so much. Like, I feel so grateful. And I remember telling him that in that moment. And later on that night, we go to l'Opera, and we're having a wonderful time, drinking great wine, having good food.
Uh-huh.
And if you've been to l'Opera in Saint-Tropez, it's very much a party restaurant. You have dancers on the tables. It's like, it's a party scene, but like, that's also like kind of like my vibe when I'm like, have a couple of drinks in me. And we're sitting at dinner, and he's talking to me about his mom, and talking about how he's so protective over her, and how much he loves her, and how he like would do anything for her. And I remember just like looking at him and just being like, this is like everything I want in a man. If a man is going to treat his family with respect, the chances of him treating your family with respect are so much higher. And I just felt like I saw his heart, and it just made me just fall for him even more than I had already. And I guess my thoughts had translated to my face, because he picked up on some expression, and he was like, "What is it?" I was like, "Nothing." He said, "Tell me." I go, "Nothing." And then he grabs my face, and he pulls it close to him. He goes, "Tell me." And I say, "I'm in love with you." And then I started bawling my eyes out at l'Opera in Saint-Tropez. And this was a sweet moment, but it was also very uncomfortable and embarrassing, because all the workers are all thinking that I'm getting dumped right now, when I'm really just falling in love for the first time, and like don't know how to control my emotions. And I remember just like bawling my eyes out, and being like, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what this feeling is. Like, I don't know what's happening." Like, and he's just sitting there smiling, and he's like, "This is like one of the best nights of my life." And he looked at me, he goes, "I want to say it back to you, but I also want to have my own special moment, so I'm not going to do it right now." And I said, "Thank you, God, because I would not want you to tell me right now." And honestly, never in a million years did I think that I would say "I love you" first to him, but he pulled it out of me, and I felt it. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to say it." And I did. And it felt so good. And I remember we went back to the hotel that night, got some sleep. And the next morning we went to Bagatelle, and we had just like a beach day. And I used to tell everyone that this was the best day of my life, because we spent the whole day just swimming and laughing and eating and having such a great time. And I just thought to myself, like, I could do this forever. And like, I also thought to myself, like, I don't care if we're on a couch in Dallas, Texas, like, I just want to be around him all the time. And so that night we go to dinner, and I remember just asking him, "What are the things that you think are important as we like enter into this relationship?" And he told me, if you give me respect and loyalty, I will give you the world. And I told him I can do that. And then I told him, there's a few things you should know. Number one, your money is great, but it's the cherry on top of a great sundae. You could lose it all tomorrow and I would not go anywhere. Like, the money is just like this little added benefit, but I love you for you. I'm here for who you are as a person, not the money. Also, cheating is 100% a deal breaker for me. I just feel like I always need to like put that out there. I don't care if we've been married for 15 years with 4 kids. I will leave. I will not put up with cheating. And also, my family is my world. I'm a warrior for my family and friends. And please don't ever put me in a position where I have to choose, because like I love my family so much, and that would be a situation that would cause me so much pain. And I just would never want to be in that position. He said, I understand completely. And I love that about you. So we set those ground rules, and the next day we go to Cannes. And I remember that first day in Cannes, we're having a great time. We went to the beach for a little bit, and then we decided we're gonna go shopping. And he tells me, you can pick out whatever you want to buy, you can get it. So we're going to like Cartier, we're going to Chanel, we go to Dior. I see this yellow bag I fall in love with, but I felt so uncomfortable.
Did he buy the yellow
because
bag?
I don't want this man to think that I'm with him for his money. And I didn't want him to feel like I was using him. So I remember just being like, oh, it's okay. Like, I love this purse, but I was like, it's just okay. And we end up going to Dolce & Gabbana, and I pick out this nice pair of $200 sunglasses. And he looks at me, he goes, dang, you're cheap. And I said, I just, I'm a simple girl.
Cheap? What? So what have he spent on somebody is the question. How much has he ever spent? That's cheap?
Even though I wanted the Dior bag.
The girl got spent on.
I wanted him to know that I was there for the right reasons. Oh my gosh, bachelor trauma is still kicking in. And so later that night, we decided to go to dinner, and we're eating dinner, and I go to the bathroom, and I have myself a fall going to the bathroom, going up the stairs, and everything went black. And I will continue on the series in part 4.
All right,
The Danish Deception part 3. The Danish Deception part 4. Okay, just to recap, we went to Monaco, then we went to Saint-Tropez, and we ended the trip in Cannes. And the very last night we had together, we were at dinner, and I'm walking to go to the bathroom, and I fall, and everything goes black. And let me tell you, I am a clumsy person. I know I'm a clumsy person. I'm always tripping over myself. And that day specifically, I had been tripping over my dress pretty frequently throughout the day. But I've never had like a serious accident before like this. And it was completely out of the blue. I was walking up the stairs, and I remember walking up the stairs, and the stairs in France are extremely narrow. If you've been, then you definitely would probably agree with me. And so I basically came to after falling, hitting my head, and I see these 3 men above me, and they're wearing like these bright turquoise polos. And I remember that they were the waiters. That was what they were wearing. And I remember just like coming awake and being like, what the fuck is happening? But no one was speaking any English. They're all like screaming in French, freaking out. And so I pass out again, then I come to again. And finally I'm able to say, someone go get my boyfriend. And then I pass out again. Then I come to again. And then my ex is sitting next to me. And I see him, and I'm like, what is going on? He's like, I don't know what happened. I think you fell. And I'm like, I don't remember anything. I don't know what happened. And he looked at me, he goes, do you have a history with epilepsy? I'm like, epilepsy? No, I don't have any history with that. I was like, why? He said, because you've been having seizures for the past 10 minutes. And I was like, seizures? I have never, ever had a seizure in my life. So this was shocking news, but I also wasn't like all the way there. So I was just so confused at what was happening. And I remember touching my head, and then I looked at my hand, and there was so much blood. And then I like started looking around, and everything felt wet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was going to the bathroom. So I look at him and I ask him, I'm like, is this pee? He was like, no, they just like dumped water on you. And I was like, okay. And so they basically told us that because the streets in Cannes are so narrow, they couldn't bring an ambulance. It had to be a fire truck, which I didn't care. I just wanted to get to the hospital. So these firemen come and they get me up, and I stand up, I look down, look at the puddle of water, then I smell my dress. I go, oh my gosh, this is urine. So you're telling me that I've been dating this man for 3 days and he is now sitting in a pool of my urine and my blood, watching me have seizures. I was just so, I couldn't believe that this was the reality of what was happening. I get into the truck and they take us to the hospital, and I'm still freaking out at this point because I literally don't know if I have like a severe brain bleed or what's going on. And they take us into the waiting room and they're about to take us back. And I remember the nurse said that my ex couldn't go back with me because they still had super strict restrictions from COVID. So he had to wait in the waiting room. And I remember just freaking out because no one is speaking English at this point. And I don't know what to do. I'm so terrified. I feel so alone. And I remember just looking at him and he could just see the fear in my eyes. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. He's like, just stay calm. I was like, okay. And he ends up leaning into me before they tell him that it's time to go. And he tells me, before you go, I just wanted to tell you that I love you. And I just remember being like, really? Here of all places? He was like, yeah, I wanted to tell you.
Wait a damn minute. You fail, you pissed on yourself, and he say, I love you. Interesting.
I mean, I was so grateful to hear it from him, but also I was like, are you only telling me this because you think I'm about to die? And so a lot of things were going through my head, and I ended up going back, getting a CT scan. They ended up saying, hey, everything's good. You just have a severe concussion, hence why I had seizures. And they're like, you're going to have to get 4 stitches in your eyebrow. You guys can kind of see the scar. I'm wearing makeup, so you can't really tell. So after I get my stitches, I go back out to the waiting room and I see my ex, and I automatically just feel this sense of protection and safety because he made me feel so calm, and I was just so grateful to him. And if you watched the Who the Fuck Did I Marry series, I truly believe that this whole experience was the equivalent to Risa Tisa's tire blowout before she met her ex-husband. And God was telling me to run far away from this man. My bad on misinterpreting this message. And I just thought that this was God's way of telling me that this man's going to keep me safe. And clearly,
I want to know I got a question. If they were having a good time drinking and eating, right? So my question is, did he put something in her drink? Because all of a sudden she falls out, hit her head. It's given, did he do anything? Because now that we're starting to get to the gist of the story, first of all, he said his mom was on the royal family. We found out that's not true. She went over there, gave her passport before her number. That's a red flag. So I'm trying to figure out what all of it that she did, and how did we get to the point with the $20,000, girl? Now, there's a lot of living somebody, but 20, was it 20 or 2,000? I don't care. You, baby. No, ma'am. And then he called you cheap for a $200 pair of glasses. Finding out what you know now, you should have racked up a stack at the darn Dolce & Gabbana.
Okay, but we leave the hospital and we go back to the hotel, and obviously I couldn't sleep because I had a severe concussion. So we just stayed up talking all night. And the next day I went to go get all my prescriptions, and then we went to the airport, and it was a really, really tough goodbye because I was just so sad to say goodbye to him. And he had already booked a flight to come visit me in Dallas in 10 days. He booked it before I even went to Monaco because he told me he was so sure of me and of us. And so I knew I was going to see him in a little bit over a week, but it just wasn't enough. And I just wanted to be with him 24/7. But I said my goodbyes to him, and I was like, you know what? It's going to be okay. I'm going to see you soon. Hopped on the plane and went back to Dallas. And it was really difficult to come home for multiple reasons. The biggest reason was that I had to tell my parents that not only did I have this crazy accident, but I also am in love with this man that lives in Denmark. And that's just not.
Remind y'all, she has Nigerian parents. She doesn't have regular black. These are Nigerian parents. You have to pass a test for her to be married, to be her wife. Nigerian Igbo parents. They want to know what he does, his structure of his family, how he grew up, everything. They are very strict when it comes to their child to marrying another.
Not a easy conversation to have with the Nigerian parents. And if you know Nigerian parents, or if you have Nigerian parents, you can already assume how this unfolded. Obviously, they support me and they love me and they're wonderful parents, but they were also scared and like, what are you telling me right now? But I dropped the ball, and over time, like, they were so supportive of me and my decisions. I will say the bigger challenge was healing from the head injury, because I was just doing crazy ass shit. Like, I remember I got into the shower with my socks on, and then I ran out the door with my bonnet on, chasing Smokey through the streets because I thought he ran away, even though he was inside the house. And to this day, I still think I have lingering effects, because I'll add all these filler words, and like what I want to say in my head, I think it, but I can't figure out the words sometimes. And it's very frustrating at times, and you will notice it throughout the series. And it's not something I used to do, but overall, I'm fine. My brain's fine. So obviously we're talking on the phone every single day because, you know, we're in a relationship, and he calls me and he says, "Hey, I'm considering offering on this apartment complex in Copenhagen." And we had talked about his real estate investments back in the south of France. He told me that he owned 3 apartments in Copenhagen, 2 of which were rented out, one of which he was occupying as his personal residence. And this apartment complex he was interested in had 34 units. And then there was a top floor that was unfinished, and it could be converted to 10 penthouses. And he said, it's fully rented out. It would be such a great investment. The cash flow is great. The only thing is that it's going to take up a lot of my cash liquidity, and also like stocks and crypto and everything. And obviously I'm going to be traveling to the States, and I want to be mindful of like finances. That's why I like want to bring it up to you. So what do you think? And I said, well, at this point we had been dating for like a couple weeks. So I didn't feel like I was in a place where I could insert my opinion. So I told him, like, whatever you think, I'll support you. And I also didn't know jack shit about real estate investments in Copenhagen. And also, I had just gone to the south of France with him. That whole entire trip, I had spent 15 euros the entire trip. I tried to pay for stuff. He would not take a dime from me. So at this point, I like almost am like searching for a way to prove to him that I'm not with him for his money. So I told him, I go, if I need to, you know, take on some more of like the financial responsibilities in this relationship, I'm more than happy to do so, because this is a partnership and you're there for me when I need you, and I'm going to be there for you when you need me. And he said, you know, I appreciate you saying that, but I don't think it's going to come to that. But thank you for saying that. I said, of course. So he offers on it, and his offer wins apparently by like 1,000 euros. And he decides he's going to move forward with this property maybe a couple days before he came to visit me in Dallas. And I was fully supportive of him buying this property 100%, because he's a successful businessman. And if he thinks this is a smart move, then I trust him. And also, the money was a whole separate other thing. I didn't care. All I cared about was being with him. So he's coming to Dallas, and I'm getting excited, not just because he's coming to see me, but this is a trip where he's going to start to meet my people, and it's getting real. And so I remember he was flying into Dallas. It's the middle of September. And I made this sign. It said, "Welcome to Dallas, my Danish man." And I'm waiting outside baggage claim, waiting for him to get through customs. And I'm holding this sign super high, waiting for him to come through. And I will continue the rest in part 5.
I already know.
The Danish Deception part 5. Danish Deception part 5. Okay,
let me guess. He didn't show up.
Comes out of the baggage claim past customs.
Oh, he showed up?
And I see him. And immediately I'm hit with the realization that I've got it so bad. And if you've never been in love before, falling in love for the first time is like getting swallowed by a current, and you don't even know it's there, and you're good one moment, and then before you realize it, you're in deep, and there's nothing you can do to control it. And that's how I felt. And I knew this man has the power to destroy me. And that was exhilarating, but also terrifying at the same time. And I was just really excited to integrate him with my people. And most importantly, I was excited for him to meet Smokey, who is just my world. And watching the way he was with Smokey, they instantly became best friends, and Smokey grew really attached to him. And I mean, I knew I had fallen in love with him, but I realized I hadn't even scratched the surface when I saw him with Smokey. And so we did a lot of things that trip. So we went to a Cowboys game. We went to a retirement party for a partner at my accounting firm. We went to a couple dinners. And then we also just stayed at home. I cooked a lot. I remember I made him red stew and rice, which is my favorite Nigerian food. It's a staple. And I put a lot of habanero peppers. And I remember being nervous, like, can he handle spice? And he ate it and he loved it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this white boy loves spice. This is perfect. And everything just felt like, again, it felt like everything was aligning. And so I wanted to plan something special for him to meet all of my close friends and family. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe we can go meet for a drink. And he said, like, we can go out to eat. I'll pay for everything. I was like, are you sure? He said, absolutely. So I planned a brunch, and we went to brunch here in Dallas, and it was a handful of my really close friends, and my two sisters were there, and my cousin and his now wife was there too. So we sit down at brunch, and everyone's like asking him questions, and everyone is just so impressed by him. Again, we're dealing with someone that's very charming, very charismatic. And the thing about my ex is when you meet him, he's so good at asking questions and he's good at listening. And so it's really easy to get into good conversation with him, and it's really easy to connect with him. And so we had a great brunch. I remember I was like in the bathroom and my friends followed me and they're like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. Like, we're so happy for you. And I just, I was so grateful to call him mine. And so after brunch, we go grab a drink at a place nearby the restaurant. And at that point, we're all just kind of like chit-chatting, and my cousin and my ex are having a conversation. And this cousin is like a second brother to me. We're very, very close. And I desperately wanted to get the stamp of approval from him. And so obviously they're shooting their shit, and I'm eavesdropping on the conversation 100%. And because I can. And I'm like, oh.
Now listen, this is TikTok. I want to let y'all know they already found this man. They done Googled his accomplishments, who his mama is, and everything. They went deep into the rabbit hole. This is TikTok. They once, just like with Risa Tisa, when they found that man, listen, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just wait.
We're hearing them just like, talking about random stuff. And then I hear my cousin ask him, you just have the build of an athlete. Did you play sports? And my ex goes, yeah, I actually played handball. And my cousin goes, isn't that an Olympic sport? And my ex goes, yeah, I actually went to the Olympics twice. And I immediately inserted myself into the conversation. I go, you went to the Olympics? What? And he goes, you know what? I was like the backup of the backup. I didn't even play. I don't like to brag about it because I don't think it's that big of a deal. I was like, well, did you get medals? He was like, yeah, I got a bronze and I got a gold. I was like, well, that's amazing. Like, I'm so impressed. And so now I'm thinking, this man is so humble. So let's add humble to the list of all the reasons why he's such an amazing man. So obviously we had a wonderful trip. He came to Dallas again. I did not spend any money while he was here. I obviously paid money for groceries when he wasn't around. But other than that, he wanted to pay for everything. He didn't even want me to pay for ice cream, small things. He was like, I want to treat you. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I remember he was leaving to go back to Denmark, and I was so depressed. And if anyone has been in a long distance relationship, you know how difficult it is to say goodbye. And so I was so depressed, and I'm saying goodbye to him at the airport. I'm bawling my eyes out. We finally say goodbye. He goes through security. I go home, and I just am crying for hours. I'm so depressed. And I remember I was supposed to go to a birthday party that night, and I texted my friend. I was like, I literally cannot stop crying, so I can't go to this birthday. And I hate canceling things. And so that's how bad it was. I was actually depressed for literally days. And after he got through security, he was like, I can't even walk to the terminal. I'm so depressed. I just want to walk back out and just come back to you. And I was like, I want that too. And he said, we need to start having the hard conversations on what we want for the future. And I said, absolutely. And so he was like, we need to decide whether or not we're going to live in Denmark or live in Dallas. And I still can't believe this came out of my mouth. But I told him, I said, listen, I know you already have a very much established career. And so if you want me to move to Denmark, I'm more than happy to have that conversation with you and discuss it. And he said, you know, looking at you with your friends and your family this past week has made me realize that I don't want to take that away from you. And you're really close with your parents. They're driving distance away. And like, I live in Copenhagen. My family lives in my hometown in Aalborg, which is hours away. I don't have family in Copenhagen. And I want us to be around family, especially like if we're talking about having kids one day. Like, I want that support and I want you to be around the people that you love. And so I was so happy because realistically, I did not want to move to Denmark. And so I was so happy that this man is willing to give up everything to be with me. So I was so excited about that. So he was gone for about 3 weeks to a month at this point, and he hadn't booked his flight back to Dallas yet. And then he booked it on like a Thursday. I remember it. So now we're in the middle of October of 2022. He books his flight and he said, okay, I'm coming next week, Wednesday. And I said, okay, perfect. And I'm getting all excited again. And so I called him Friday morning, and keep in mind that there's a time difference. So it's like about 7 hours. So whenever I wake up at like 5 or 6, he's basically halfway through his day. And so I called him that Friday and I said, hey, like, how's your day been? He's like, it's been such a stressful, intense day. I go, what happened? He's like, I found out that the apartment complex that I bought is dealing with some major foundation issues. Like, it could affect safety of the tenants, and I'm really stressing out and I need to get it fixed. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, did you schedule the repair? He's like, not yet. It's going to cost like a hefty chunk of change. I was like, how much is it going to cost? He's like, $50,000. I was like, $50,000. What? Like, that's obviously a lot of money. I'm sure it's a lot of money to a lot of you. It's a lot of money to me. And so I was like, okay, like, what's the plan? He's like, I mean, I have a good portion of it. So I just need to ask my dad for a little bit of a loan. And so I remember being like, I can never in a million years ask my dad for a loan of $50,000. So at this point, I was aware of the fact that like they had this royal title, they had this family trust that like, and like the family had money. I didn't really know like how much or the details behind it. But he told me he was going to call his dad and ask him for a loan. So a couple hours go by, he calls me. And he's really upset. He's like, I talked to my dad on the phone. He will not loan me the money. He says, I've been acting super irresponsible, traveling, doing all these things. And so he just doesn't want to, he thinks I need to like learn from my actions. And if I'm not prepared for something like this, then there's nothing he can do to help me. And so I felt really bad for him because he essentially felt like his dad was abandoning him. And I felt really bad for him. And so I said, what's the plan? He's like, I'll figure it out. Like, even if I have to like sell some things, like I'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, well, keep me updated, like whatever you need. And so a couple days go by and he's communicating that he's still stressed out about coming up with this money. And so I said, you know what? Like, I can loan you the money. And so at this point, I had paid off my student loans, paid off my car, bought a house.
You loaned that man $50,000. You loaned that man $50,000. I just said, don't you loan that man no damn money, and you went and did it anyway. 50 grand. $50,000. The royal family, Olympian, they have the funds. The royal Olympian family didn't have the money. Oh, okay. Let's continue.
Like, I had a decent savings. I was in a really, really good financial position. And so I wanted to help him, especially because like this man has like treated me so well and done so much for me. And I truly felt like we were in a partnership, especially like when you're talking about the future with someone. And so I told him, like, let me loan it to you. He goes, I would never in a million years borrow money for you. And I was like, good. It's okay. Like, I don't mind helping. He's like, that's like not even a discussion I want to have. And I said, okay, that's fine. So a couple of days go by and he's still stressing out about coming up with this money. I asked him, like, how much do you need? He's like, it's 10,000 I need. And I was like, again, like, let me loan it to you. He said,
so he needed $10,000. Okay. As money as he say he come from, he don't have 10 grand. He didn't have 10,000. 10,000. He didn't have $10,000, girl. You stay in Dallas. I know that is a high rise. I could tell by the background. Well, you say you brought your own house, so I know that's a 2-story house. I could tell. Let's put it that way. The houses in Dallas are not small. They're very huge. No matter where you go in Texas, these are nice big homes. Atlanta has nice big homes too. So they all big. But you telling me that he didn't have $10,000 at all?
No, I'm not taking money from you. And then a couple days go by and he says, okay, like now I need $6,000. And I was like, okay, again, let me give it to you. He's like, no, I still don't want to take money from you. And then basically like 2 days before he's supposed to come to Dallas, he tells me, he says, just letting you know, I'm not gonna be able to come to Dallas because I need to figure out this issue. And I'm at this point, I start freaking out because I'm like, no, like I 100%.
Now I can't blame him because he was like, no, I'm not taking it from you, but I'm not gonna come and put you in a bind, and I can't have a good time because I don't have it. So I'm trying to figure out where the deception came from, because he blatantly sitting here telling her that, you know, I'm not gonna do it. So we're gonna let her continue to talk and see where this situation panned over to deception, because he's telling you, he's vented to you as his girlfriend, and he's like, listen, I can't come. I'm gonna have to figure out some things right now for myself, because I don't want for you to see, because as a man, and he's probably thinking, I don't want to put you on to that. Let me figure out my situation and what I have going on, and then I'll come to Dallas. But obviously, Miss, I want to loan you, girl. Because my thing is, what you should have been thinking and why things rolling in your head was, if you in a royal family and you supposed to be some football player, Olympian, you telling me that you don't got 6K, my brother? Like, what's going on? What's going on here? What's going on? But he's venting to her. And she's like, well, let me just loan you the money. I really like you. I really want to show you I'm your girlfriend. And he's like, no, I got this. And she's like, listen, I'm here. And he's like, no, I'll never take money from you. But he's like, I'm here. I'm here, girl. Now I gotta put you in timeout, sis. I gotta put, sister, you should have had thoughts running through your head a little bit better. Okay.
Like want you to come still. Just let me loan you the money so that you'll be fine and we can,
wide open,
be happy and be together. And so after some thinking, he was like, okay, fine, I will borrow the money from you, but you have to promise me that this will be the only time and that you're 100% comfortable with giving me this money.
Hell no, I'm not.
Absolutely. I'm 100% comfortable.
The hell?
And we will continue on in part 6.
Girl,
Danish Deception. The Danish Deception, part 6. Okay, so I've decided to loan him this money, and he's agreed to it. So I download this app. It's called Revolut, and it's kind of like Venmo, where you can send money internationally instantly. So I download it. It took like a day to verify all my information, and I was able to send him the 6K. And the next day, he flew into Dallas to come be with me. And so that trip.
So you paid for the ping. You paid for the ping. That's what you're saying. You paid for it for the night. You paid for. Oh, she got African parents. This conversation is not gonna be good. Oh my God, I can hear her father now. What do you mean you paid for him? He don't have money? Oh my God. I know they told her up. Let's continue.
It was really fun. We really didn't do a whole lot. I remember we just went to the state fair and we went to dinner once, and the rest of the time we just hung out at home. And I remember it was hard for him because he was dealing with some really bad back pains. And I think it was just because he was flying a lot, and he said he injured his back when he was playing handball. So I remember I was giving him back massages almost every single day because it was really, really bad. And so this trip was very, very short. He was only there for a week, but I would say this was a very special trip for us because this was like the first time that he actually started making friends, like through me. And I started watching him start to make guy friends. And so this was when I got even more excited because I felt like we were really starting to, build a life here in Dallas together. So he leaves. Obviously, again, I'm depressed again. And
Depressed?
At this point, I know he's definitely planning on coming to.
You depressed? I would be depressed too if I gave a motherfucker 6,000. Now I would be very depressed too, girl. Oh my God, depressed, baby. I would.
Dallas for Thanksgiving to meet my parents, but I didn't know when he was
Lord.
planning on flying back. And so basically
Hold on
he's
now.
gone,
Wait,
and I feel like the
wait,
second
wait.
he leaves, like everything just kind of like starts to like fall apart for him. And so for starters, his back pain was getting like much, much worse. He's complaining about it every single day. Like he would text me in the middle of the night being like, it hurts so
Right.
bad. Like, and I felt terrible because I
Ooh.
wanted to help him, but there was nothing I could do because I'm living 5,000 miles away.
Yeah.
On top of that, his uncle, who was really sick with cancer, had passed away.
Oh,
And
no.
he told me the funeral was going to be the next week. And I remember telling him, I will fly to Denmark if I need to, if you want me to be there for you. And he's like, no, it's fine. Like I can handle it. It's okay.
Okay.
And so
Well,
basically that happened. And then I remember I went to Charlotte to go visit one of my girlfriends who had just had a baby. One of my girlfriends that I've been friends with for years and years since college. And so I'm in Charlotte with my friend and I get a text from him. He's saying, hey, my dad's in the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And he was like, we still don't understand what happened, but the doctors are running tests. And so later on that day, he told me that he had blood poisoning and he had like his infection numbers were like going crazy. And I remember telling him, well, if you're not able to come to Dallas in November, obviously I'll understand, especially like if your dad's in the hospital, like I understand completely. Again, I told him, I'll be there for you if you want me to. He's like, it's okay. Over the course of the next couple days, his dad started to show some more improvement. So he ended up deciding to come to visit me in Dallas. Now we're in November of 2022. So he comes back to Dallas, and basically this was a very exciting trip because number one, I used to be on the board of an organization called UIU. It's a nonprofit that celebrates Igbo Nigerian culture, and my culture is so important to me. And so I was the event coordinator for the Dallas chapter, and I was so proud of this. Like we had just won chapter of the year out of all the chapters in the nation. It was just such a huge accomplishment for me and my whole board. And I remember my cousin, who I told you guys I'm really close with, he was the president. And so we had a huge gala that we planned that year, and we had people flying in from all over the country to come. And obviously it took a lot of planning, and I was working really hard to make sure it was executed perfectly. I remember the day of the gala comes, and he is helping me set up, do everything that entire day. And this was the first time that I fully like integrated him with a bunch of Nigerians. And I was really curious to see how he was going to react to being with all these people, because obviously Nigerians are so much fun, but some people might think we're a little bit too much. Forget them. But I wanted to make sure that he wasn't one of those people. So we have the gala, he helps me set up all day, and I'm just kind of watching him at the gala, just talking to people, and he's getting along with everyone. He's dancing to the Afro beats, and I just feel like, okay, he really takes my culture seriously. Like he wants to make sure that I know that he's gonna make sure this is a part of his life too. And I remember just being really happy about that. And so after the gala was done, it was a couple days, and my parents came to visit me in Dallas for Thanksgiving. And so I remember he went to go stay at a hotel because my parents, obviously, they're Nigerian, very traditional. We wanted to be respectful. So he went and stayed at a hotel. My parents came to visit, and he was here when my parents got in town. And I'm telling you, my parents fell in love with him immediately. And I think watching him with my dad it just warmed my heart because they just instantly connected. And my dad, like everyone else, was very fascinated by him. And I remember the following day we went to African market with my parents. It was just me, my ex, and my parents. And he's talking to my parents about the Olympics, and they're asking him all these questions. And he was like, yeah, like the gold medal I gave to my mom, she has it. And then the bronze medal, I actually donated it to charity. And I'm just like, this guy is just so freaking amazing. And so we had an amazing Thanksgiving. It was his first Thanksgiving in the States. And my grandmother had recently just passed away. And this is my dad's mom. It was really, really sad. And he was talking to us about the plans for the burial. And so he said, we're going to do the burial in May. It's going to be in the village in Nigeria. And he looks at my dad and he says, I'll be there. And I remember looking at him like, I don't think you really understand what you're agreeing to. And he said, I don't care. I'm going to be there. I'm like, we're talking about the village in Nigeria.
The village in Nigeria. You got to go to the village.
We're not just talking about like a big city where you can get a little bit of culture shock where you like, you know, or go back to your hotel. And no, we're talking about being in the village. And he said, I don't care. I'm going to be there. And so that was when I realized like this man really takes my culture seriously. He wants to be there for me. He wants to be there for my family. And that meant so much to me. And so at the end of the trip, I told him, I said, this week has showed me that I know that I want to spend my life with you. And I'm just, thank you for being the man that you are. And he said, I want to spend my life with you. And I'm going to let you know, like, I already know that I want to marry you someday. Like, and I don't want you to ever doubt that. And so he asked me, he's like, I have a question. Like, do you have an idea of what ring you would want? And I was like, I mean, I have some ideas, but I have not thought about it really extensively. And so he said, what are your thoughts on us going ring shopping? And keep in mind, at this point, we've been dating for like 4 months. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. So we found a jeweler. We went and we tried on some rings. I remember I'm trying on lab grown and natural. And I'm like looking at the price differences. And I'm like, I am not allowing you to buy me a natural stone because that number is just crazy. I'd rather us.
He don't give a damn. I'm just saying.
Spend money investing, doing other things. And he said, well, let me look into it because I kind of do want to get you natural. And I was like, no, we're getting a lab grown. And I remember like, if you've, gone ring shopping, the price difference is like astronomical. And so I remember I picked out a ring that I really liked and then we left. And that was basically the end of like the rings for that moment. And so he goes back to Denmark and the plan was for me to go on a trip with him for Christmas. As I mentioned previously, my parents were traveling for Christmas and him and his older sister do not have a relationship. Like they can't be in intimate settings together. So they alternate Christmases. Like
Why?
He had last Christmas. So this Christmas was her Christmas. So we already had planned to spend Christmas together. And so originally we were talking about going to South Africa, like I mentioned before. And then we started looking at flights and he was like, it's a long trip. I only want to fly business. And they were like $12,000 round trip. And he's like, well, maybe we can make it work. I was like, we are not spending that much on flights to South Africa. That's not happening. And so I started looking at other flights and then we talked about maybe going to Brazil. And then he tells me, okay, make an itinerary and look at hotels and flights and everything and send it to me and I'll book it. We're going to go to Brazil. I said, okay, sounds good. So I wake up one day, I said, hey, did you book the travel? And he was like, no, I haven't, but there's something I need to talk to you about. I go, what's up? He goes, so I talked to a doctor because my back has gotten really, really bad. And it turns out I have 2 herniated discs and I'm going to need to get surgery. And I said, okay, like, that's fine. And he said, I'm going to have to get surgery December 21st. And I said, oh, wow. Okay, well, that's fine. We don't need to go on a trip. I'll just come to Denmark and I'll help you recover and everything. And he said, actually, no, I don't want you to come to Denmark. I want you to be there, but I don't want that to be the first time with my parents. And they definitely want to be there. And at this point, I'm like, what do you mean? I'm your girlfriend and we're talking about a future. Why would I not be there when you're getting a major surgery? And I will continue on in part 7.
All right, let's get to it. I don't believe people get started.
Okay, Danish Deception, part 7. So he tells me that he needs to get a back surgery and he does not want me to come to Denmark because he wants me to meet his parents with him there because there's a serious language barrier and he wants to make sure that I can communicate with them through him. And he's like, I don't want you to be using Google Translate to talk to them the first time you meet them. And yeah, and at first I was really upset because I felt like he wasn't treating me like I was his family. And I remember having a conversation with my mom about it because I was really frustrated. And she asked me, she said, do you think his parents know about you? And I remember
No.
I got really defensive because I told her, in what world would his parents not know about me? And I told him, I really want to be there. I was still kind of like pushing.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think they did. Because if he's sitting here telling her he don't want her to go, he's having major surgery, that means they don't know or he's hiding something. So obviously what he's been telling her is not the truth.
On him for like the full day. And I remember like that was like one of our first like little fights. At this point, we had not fight at all. Like we have not had a single fight in the last 4 months because it's December of 2022. And so I told him, I said, listen, I really want to be there for you. And he was like, honestly, I don't want to like fight about this anymore. Like, let's just put this to rest. And I remember being frustrated because I also didn't have plans for Christmas because my family was going to be traveling. And I had planned to spend Christmas with him. So I remember I reached out to my best friend, Natalie. I was talking to her about the situation. And she said, why don't you fly to New York, spend a couple days with me, and then we'll go spend Christmas in Boston with my family. And I said, okay, like we can do that. And so I brought up the option to my ex. He said, I think that's a great idea. I obviously don't want you to spend Christmas by yourself. And so I said, okay, that works. And I'm obviously extremely sad because at this point I hadn't seen him in weeks. And now I don't know when I'm going to see him again because he's getting this surgery on December 21st. So I make plans, book my flight to New York. And a couple of days before I leave, he told me, maybe what we can do is you can come to Denmark maybe a couple days after my back surgery because the doctors say that I need to be up walking a couple days afterwards. And I think it's just my mom that's going to come. So what we can do is you can come meet my mom and we can go see like the Christmas lights. And at that point I'll be able to translate and everything. And so I said, that's fine. So I was like, I'll fly to New York, go to Boston, spend Christmas with my friend Natalie. And then I'll also have like an extra bag packed for like things to wear in Copenhagen and just make sure I'm prepared to figure out what the plan is whenever he tells me. And so I think we had decided that it was December like 26th or 27th that I was going to go to Copenhagen and then spend like a week there. So I go to New York.
Hold on, y'all.
Have a great couple of days with my friend Natalie. And then on like the second day I'm in New York, I get a message from him. And he said, oh my goodness, my dad's back in the hospital. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. He's like, his infection numbers are bad again, his blood poisoning again. And he ended up getting diagnosed with leukemia. And I just, I wanted to be there for him. And I said, like, do you want me to come? Like, I want to be there for you. Like, I don't want you to feel like you have to navigate through these things without having like your partner there to support you. And he said, right now, I just need to like focus on my family. And I'm grateful for you to be here, but I also don't want you to meet my dad for the first time in a hospital bed. And I'm obviously frustrated because I really want to be there for him, but I also don't want to be too pushy because I'm like, this is your family. Your dad's in the hospital. I don't want to put too much on him. And so we made the decision that I was just going to be kind of like on standby, which was fine because I was with my best friend, Natalie, and I love her so much. And so I was having honestly a wonderful time with her and her family. And so we had left New York, went to Boston. Obviously, I'm still in constant communication with him, trying to figure out what's happening. And he sends me a message. I think it's on December 23rd. He sends me a message and he says, I'm so angry. I just got into a fight with my sister. And maybe like 5 minutes later, he gives me a call and I'm like, what happened? He said, we're sitting in the hospital room and my dad is obviously laying in the bed. And my older sister looks to me and says, so where are you spending Christmas? And I said, not with you, bitch. And it turned into a huge fight. They start screaming at each other in the hospital. He storms out. He feels so disrespected. His mom's upset. His little sister's upset because they're already spending some of their holidays in the hospital. And like now, like they have all this tension in the family. And so I remember just being like so confused as to like why his sister is like this awful person. Like, why is she treating you like this, especially at a time when your dad is not doing okay? And so he calls me. He's like, I'm just so upset. Like, I want to get away. And I said, well, let me know what you need from me. Like, I'm literally a plane ride away. And he said, well, I obviously, like, now that I'm like, don't want to be around my family, I would love to see you. And I said, okay, well, I can book a flight to Copenhagen and come stay with you. And he said, I don't know. I just kind of feel like I just need to get out of Denmark. And at that point, he was obviously in his hometown in Aalborg, which is 4 hours north of Copenhagen. And so he took a train back to Copenhagen. He's spending Christmas completely by himself. So sad. And we're still trying to iron out what the plans are. And he, again, tells me, I want to leave Denmark. And I was like, are you sure? Because at this point, like, I knew that I wouldn't say we were having like financial issues, but I knew, like, obviously there was like a little bit of tension with like all of his expenses that were adding up. And so I was like, it might be easier for me to just fly there and I can just stay with you. And he's like, I just really want to get away. And I said, okay, where do you want to go? He said, have you been to Paris before? And I said, no, I actually have not been to Paris. And he's like, well, let's do Paris. And I said, okay, I'm absolutely down to do Paris. And so I look at flights. I book a flight from Boston to Paris, the layover in Iceland, and I leave on the 26th and I get to Paris on the 27th and I see him. He meets me at the airport. We arranged our flights to make sure we landed around the same time. And something I need to add is, before I had gone to Paris, he had told me that he had made a transfer from his business account to his personal account. And obviously in the States, when you make a transfer like that, it's just like a click of a button. Like, I have a business account, it's a click of a button. But he told me that in Denmark, when you make a transfer from your business account to your personal account, it actually has to go through the IRS. They take out the taxes and then they deposit the money into your personal account. And I'm over here thinking, like, that's so crazy. But I also know, like, Denmark is a foreign country that I don't know anything about. I didn't question it for a second. And so he said, I'm just going to ask my mom to give me a quick little loan so I can obviously cover everything with Paris and whatnot. And I said, okay, just let me know what she says. And then he basically came back to me and said, she said that she will only give me the money if I spend a couple more days with the family. I said, well, you should do that. Like, I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to take you away from your family by any means. And he said, I don't even want to be around them right now. It's just like not good for my mental health. And then I said, okay, well, what do you need from me? I said, I can cover like the flights and the hotels. It's not that big of a deal. And at that point, we had been on 2 trips together, or no, we'd only been on 1 trip together to the south of France. And then Paris was going to be our second trip. The rest of the times, he had now visited me in Dallas 3 times. And so I told him, I said, I can pay for the flights and the hotels. It's not that big of a deal. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah, of course. He's like, I just don't know what I would do without you. Like, I just feel like I keep hitting these roadblocks and you are there to pick up the pieces every single time. And I'm so grateful for that. And I said, I'll always be there to support you. So now we can go back to landing in Paris. We meet at the airport and he told me, he's like, letting you know, I'm not in the best mood. I've been just like really upset. And I said, I am here to make you happy. So we land in Paris, we see each other, we're so happy. And we had the most spectacular trip in Paris. Like, we were just exploring. It was my first time there. And it was, obviously I paid for a lot of that trip and he paid for a little bit of the trip too. So we both kind of paid. And keep in mind, he still owes me $6,000 at this point.
Right.
I am not concerned about the money. I don't know why I should have been concerned. I should have been noticing these red flags, like, bro, like, where's my money? But again, this is someone that I am planning on marrying, and money at this point, like, money comes and goes, and I wasn't focused on that. I was just focused on us. So we finish our trip in Paris, say our goodbyes, and we start just, getting depressed, as we always do when we say goodbye. And I board my flight to Dallas, and he asked me, what are your thoughts on us meeting with an immigration attorney just to get an idea of what the process entails? And I said, absolutely, I would love to do that. Obviously, I had Googled and looked into a few things, but nothing concrete. At the time, one of my best friends was working part-time for immigration attorneys. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, can I get her contact information? And she said, yeah, of course. She gives me her contact information. And I call her, we set up a meeting, and obviously, still the time difference. He had a work trip in Norway that he was at. And at this point, also, little side note, we had started sharing our locations while we were in Paris.
What the hell?
So
Why?
I had his location at this point, and I could see that he was in Norway. And he also FaceTimed me.
Y'all, I'm going to do 2 parts to this because I think she did 26. We're going to do to 10 because staying here for the whole damn 26 is going to take all night. Let me see. Let me make sure. Let me skip, and we're gonna talk about it. Cause honey, let me go to her page. Okay, so there's 28 parts. So we're gonna do a part 2 tomorrow. Then we're going to do part 3 Tuesday, which is the finale.
From the hotel room. So he was in Norway, 100%. And we had a call with the lawyer, and we were discussing the process. And she tells us it's going to take 18 months for you guys to get all of this process after the time you get married. And I was like, 18 months? She's like, everything is super backed up because of COVID. I always want to let my clients know this stuff so that they are fully prepared. And I just felt like that sounded like such a long time. But we finished a conversation with the lawyer, and I then call my ex, and we're talking, debriefing on everything. And there's 2 different types of ways to get a permanent residency in the United States. There's consular processing, and then there's another way where you basically apply for the visa and you're living in the States full time while you're processing the visa. So obviously, because he was still working a lot and traveling a lot for work, and because of his dad's health, we decided we would do consular processing because why not? But then we start having the discussions on, okay, but the clock starts after we get married. And that's when he says, well, I would marry you tomorrow. And I was like, well, I would marry you tomorrow. And he was like, wait, really? And now the time has come for me to drop the first of many bombs on you guys.
Oh, Lord.
The Danish Deception, part 8. I was not going to leave you guys.
Wait a minute. Hold the hell on. She married him? Okay, let's continue.
Hanging, but I do have a wedding tonight, so this will be the final part of the evening. And just want to let you guys know, I need you to bear with me. I do have a job. I do have a life. I'm trying to do this at my own pace, but I also wanted to say thank you all for being here. This is not easy to share with the world, but your support truly means so much to me. All right. So yeah, we were not just engaged, we were married, and we are now divorced. So once we made the decision to get married, I remember we had a phone call over the course of like 6 hours. And one day we talked on the phone about all the things that we wanted to get out of life. We talked about kids, we talked about religion, we talked about everything. And at the end of that day, he told me, do you still want to get married? And I said, absolutely. I'm in love with you. I want to build a life with you. I want to have a family with you. So the decision was very, very simple. And so he already told me about a month prior that he had reached out to his realtor about putting out feelers about selling his home. Because at this point, now that we're getting married, he's like, I'm going to just try to spend as much time in Dallas as possible. And I was absolutely okay with that. And so in the beginning of January, he had told me that his realtor got an offer off market for his place. And I was like, that's great. And he was like, I'm going to probably take a loss. So, I mean, I'm just trying to get as much as my down payment back. And I was like, how much are you going to end up getting back? He said, probably around $500,000. I was like, well, that's, a good solid base for us to have. And I was more than okay with that. Keep in mind, he still does owe me money at this point. So they end up going under contract. The plan is for the house to sell by the end of January. And everything seemed like it was going smooth. And then one day he calls me and he tells me that he's had the worst day ever. And I'm like, oh, now what? he's frantic. He's like, there's a fire in the control room, the electrical control room at the apartment complex that he bought. And he's just like, I don't know what to do. He's like, there's no power. Like, no one has power. He's like, I just paid this guy $2,000 to bring generators to power up the whole entire apartment. I have an electrician coming. And he's like freaking out. And he basically used all of his money he had to put towards like the generators and paying the electrician for as much work as they could do. And I was like, okay, like what now? And he was like, I need help. At this point, he has now asked me for help. He said, can you send me $5,000? And I said, yeah, of course, I can help you. Again, love is powerful.
She would have made me mad. So 6,000, now 5,000. That's $11,000. That's $11,000. 11,000. Okay.
I hate myself. I hate this. I hate that I was so willing to help him, and it is what it is. But I sent him the $5,000. He tells me that his insurance is going to cover it. He's going to be able to pay me back. And also, like, I'm mindful of the fact that his house is supposed to close at the end of the month. And so a week go by and we start talking about plans for the wedding. And so at first we wanted to go to Vegas, and then we looked into it, and Denmark does not recognize wedding marriages that are done in Vegas, because you can get the marriage certificate and get married in the same day. Same thing with Colorado. Shout out to Denmark. I love that rule. But we're like, it's fine. We should just save money. Let's just do it in Dallas. And then we can go do a little weekend trip to Broken Bow, Oklahoma, which is like this cute lake town. And that can be our honeymoon. And he was like, okay, that works fine. We can do that. At this point, he has his flight booked to come back to Dallas in the end of January. Now we're in 2023. And he tells me that one of his really close friends that owns a plumbing business, and my ex was actually godfather of this man's son. This is confirmed. And he came to him and said that his partner in his business is like doing some like shady stuff. He's like scared that he's going to get like implicated. He wants my ex to buy out his partner. And he's asking him for a loan of $250,000. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. And this time he asked me, and, you know, we're about to get married. So now I feel like I can insert my opinion about the situation. So I asked him, I'm like, is this just a handout or is this going to be a good investment? And he was like, well, I think it's going to be a really good investment. Like, he has a bunch of ideas of how to expand the business. And to me, I was like, well, if you can help a friend and have a good investment, I think that that makes a lot of sense. And as you guys can already tell, I'm a very giving person. I've been very giving my entire life. I get it from my parents. They're very generous and selfless. And so when it comes to helping friends and family in need, I've always done it. If I can do it, I'll always do it. And so to me, I'm like, we have this money coming in. Let's invest it. And, you know, I own this house here and we don't have any big purchases coming up. So it's okay. Like, I wasn't really stressed and pressed about it. And so basically I was like, okay, the house is going to close at the end of the month, and then he'll be able to like pay me back the money that he owes me, and he'll be able to help his friend, and everything will be good to go. So he ends up coming back to Dallas. We get our marriage certificate. We set our wedding date for February 10th. And I remember the night before our wedding, he got really, really bad food poisoning, which I feel like should have been another sign that this was 100% the wrong decision to make. But instead I was like, hey, in sickness and in health, like, whatever happens, we're going to make it through it. And at this point, he doesn't really have any money. I remember he looked at me, he goes, I'm sick, I'm broke. You want to marry me still? I said, I don't care if you're sick and broke. I love you for you. And we're getting married, and I'm so excited and ready for it. So the morning of our wedding, obviously he couldn't afford a ring at that point. And so I remember he got on one knee. I like woke up that morning and he's down on one knee next to the bed. And he was like, I know this isn't the proposal you dreamed of. And I promise you, I'm going to propose to you one day with a real ring, and we're going to share this with the world. But I want to ask you, will you marry me? And I said, absolutely, I'll marry you.
Oh,
so
Lord.
We went to the courthouse. I remember I was wearing a dress from Fashion Nova because I didn't care. I was just excited to marry my person. and we got married. And I mean, I truly thought this was one of the best days of my life. I was so happy. I was grinning so big. I still have the pictures and the videos from this day. And we went to Broken Bow afterwards.
So she went to the courthouse and married this man after he asked her to marry her on the bed at the hotel. Oh, Jesus. Oh, the African parents are upset. Honey, I want to hear they thoughts. We got 2 more.
And we just had a great weekend in a little cabin in the woods. And it's just this cute lake town. So it's perfect. And we brought Smokey. I remember we got burgers. I made lasagna. We just stayed in and hiked. And it was a really, really wonderful honeymoon. After the wedding, he stayed in Dallas for about a week, and then he goes back to Denmark. And he had said that the house had closed and that he was just waiting for the funds. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay in Denmark. Again, I have no idea how this stuff works. And so while he's in Denmark, he says the funds came through. He transferred the money to his friend for the investment in the plumbing business. And he said that he was about to set up a transfer for me for the money he owed me, which was about $10,000 at that point. And so
okay, it was 10,000.
A couple weeks go by. I still haven't received the money. I'm not super pressed about it because I'm like fully trusting him at this.
Girl, $10,000. It don't matter. The 10,000 is hard to come by. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Point. And he ends up booking his flight to come back to visit in March. And this trip was a trip that my dad and my mom were coming back to Dallas to come visit. And he already planned to ask my dad for my hand in marriage. And so he's about to come visit, and he calls me maybe like a couple of days before he's about to come to Dallas. And he said, I received the worst possible news today, and I will continue on in part 9. Hope you guys have a great night. The Danish Deception, part 8. I was not going to leave you guys hanging, but I do have a wedding tonight.
We got one more.
The Danish Deception, part 9. Okay. So he calls me and he tells me that he's had the worst news that he possibly could have.
He started with worst
the
news.
IRS has told him that he owes $318,000 in taxes. In addition to that, his dad owes $12 million in taxes.
Wait, what?
And at this point, I did not have a lot of information about his family money because I've always been the type of person, like, if your parents have money, that means your parents have money. That does not mean you have money. So I didn't even ask details about his parents' finances, but obviously I'm like, if his parents owe $12 million in taxes, they got money.
Now, one thing, just because she comes from a permanent family that has money, she still has to make her own money. That's just what it is. But another thing that I find really concerning is that every time he go through something, he asks her something that the IRS owe him. I didn't even know Denmark had IRS. I didn't know. It's certain things I don't know. I just know American stuff. But $12 million? 12, what, how, no.
And he said that the person that was doing his taxes for years and years and also doing his dad's taxes was one of his childhood friends that owns an accounting firm. And he's like, we've been paying a lot of money in taxes over the years. So someone must be committing some sort of fraud at this point. And so I'm obviously freaking out. This is a lot of money that he owes. So he said, you know what? I'm going to use the rest of the proceeds from selling my home. And in addition to that, he told me at this point, he owns 3 different watches. He owns 2 Rolexes and a Patek watch, which if you're not a watch person, these are very expensive watches. And so a couple hours go by. He's like, I sold my Patek watch. And like he said, he sold it at a loss. He just needed to get the money. He said he's short about $30K. And so he tells me that he's going to reach out to his parents, and his parents are like, we don't care. Like, this is not our problem. This is your problem. Figure it out. And he starts to just like, continue spiraling. And so he tells me he's going to reach out to 2 of his childhood friends, one of which he was with this friend whenever we met in Croatia. So I knew they've been friends for a while, and then another childhood friend. And he told me, I've helped out these friends so much in the past, and it's almost like he was communicating to me that he was owed this money from them. I've never asked friends for money before, so this is like not anything that I'm comfortable with, but I was like, hey, if you feel comfortable doing this, go for it. I had not offered him a cent. So he comes back, says he's going to get $10,000 from one friend and then $5,000 from another friend. And I was like, that's so nice of them. He's like, I've honestly helped them so much in the past that like, I'm grateful that they're helping me when I'm in need. And so at this point, he's short $15,000. And so he just comes right out and asks me, like, can I borrow it? And I did not say yes right away. I said, listen, I have to pay my taxes too, because I was working at an accounting firm. Obviously, that's W-2 income, but I was also doing real estate. And I did very well the year before. So I owed a pretty penny in taxes. And it's March of 2023. So my taxes are coming up pretty soon. And so I told him, I'm like, I'm not comfortable giving you this money because, you know, like I have to pay taxes too. And now my savings is like really starting to like, I'm starting.
So listen, she got to pay taxes because she's in the tax bracket of paying taxes. So I don't, besides her, I'm sorry, read what somebody say. Somebody say Nigerian parents, and none of them had a dream. God calling them and saying something. Listen, between Nigerian and Caribbean parents and the Black American parents, we always get that phone call. Don't you give no money to. I had a dream that man was no good. God told me that y'all watch the playback. Y'all know God told me that man was no good. Who is this man? You be like, what? The Lord sent me a sign that that man wasn't good for you. So her savings are starting to be depleted. She has money, but she still has to pay her taxes because she has to pay taxes on her home. And she also has to pay taxes because she's not in a tax bracket. So her money is what it is. So that money that she still get taxes, but she still has to pay a certain amount. She still gets something, right? So for her, y'all got to understand, and I don't think he knew that when she first gave that 6K, that's when she knew, she should have known that he was playing with her. She's gave 4K, that's 10,000 plus another 5, that's $15,000. Her savings is for if anything go wrong for bills. So imagine how much her saving was. That was for her mortgage, groceries, lights, car, whatever happens. And the fact that he shenanigans, he gonna shenan again. She gave that nigga I'm sorry, he's not a nigga. He's a white man. She gave that Denmark man an inch and he took a full mile running. And this is why we don't give an inch, because they're going to take a further mile, maybe 2 or 3. So now her savings are going to go. So let's see what he had to say, because now they're married. He's in another country. Her savings are about depleted. So let's see what this entails or what happened.
To feel like the financial impact, and it's starting to stress me out. And he said, you know, I hired a law firm. They've already looked into my tax records. They've already found indicators of fraud. I think I'm going to be able to get this turned around really quickly. And my biggest worry and concern is that if I don't pay this tax bill, it's going to affect my chances of getting a green card. And that's when I start to panic. And now I realize that I was just in a very toxic cycle of emotional manipulation. But after some time, he talks me into loaning him the $15,000. And I remember
Okay, so I did a research. I asked, does Denmark have taxes? They say they have direct and indirect taxes for both individuals and businesses. The high tax rates fund an extensive welfare state, including services like free healthcare, education, and Social Security benefits, which Danes widely support. Their personal income tax, this is a progressive tax, meaning higher earners pay a larger percentage for their income, and it's composed of several components. So it's an 8% flat tax, so he wasn't paying his taxes. That's what it sounds like. Municipal tax. It sounds like he was supposed to do some type of tax if he had business. But my thing is, I want to know, how does it work? They have progressive, a value added tax. They have like certain things. Let me see. Okay, so he has a tax non-complacent, ranging from substantial. So basically, he didn't pay his taxes. So he want her to fund the taxes. So this is my question. Does he really have businesses?
Could send him like 3K at a time. And so I remember it was like over like at the course of 5 days. And like every day he'd be like, hey, don't forget to send the payment. And everything about this felt so wrong in my soul, but I did it anyways. And this was not something that I kept quiet about. Like I told my parents, I told my siblings, like my ex got this crazy tax bill. And, you know, they were all aware that we were going through this like financial hiccup, and I didn't like want to be presented as these people with money. So I was very upfront and honest about it. And like you can ask a lot of my friends, like I told a lot of my close people about this situation. And quick side note, I did not tell them that I was loaning him money. I just told them that he owed a lot of money, and I told them about the overall situation. But at this point, no one knows that I have given him any money. So I ended up giving him the money. He's so grateful. He's like, thank you so much for helping me out. And so about like 5 days later, he flies to Dallas to come and visit. And my parents came to visit maybe a couple of days after he came. And at this point, he's staying in the living room, not in the bed with me, but he could not go to a hotel because we're like trying to be mindful with spending. So my parents definitely started to bond with my ex a lot more over this trip. Like I remember my dad brought him this Nigerian Igbo cane that my ex had been admiring, that my dad had one. He surprised him, brought him one from Nigeria. And he actually took my dad out and asked him for my hand in marriage, even though we were already married. And my dad said yes. And my dad also broke coconut in front of the family and like welcomed my ex into the family. It's just, I mean, it was really special. Obviously, we were dealing with a lot of financial stress, but I want you all to know that like,
I feel like he married her, y'all, because she was giving him money, and it was to pay for his finances. I really believe that. And that's the messed up part, because she was going full throttle and thinking that this is her husband. He will do this. They're going to be fine. She wants the best for him. And then come to find out, it wasn't what she thought it was.
I was happy a majority of the time, regardless of the stress I was going through, which is just insane to understand. But after a week, we ended up going to Cabo for one of my childhood friends' wedding. And I had paid for the portion of the wedding already because I had been planning on going by myself. And then obviously I got into a relationship. So I just had to pay like a little extra to add someone to the reservation. But we decided to go a couple days early and celebrate like our honeymoon. And so basically our flight comes and he's staying in the living room. My parents are sleeping in the guest bedroom. And I wake up and I get a text from him and he says, hey, can you come downstairs real quick? And I said, of course. So I go downstairs. I'm like, what's up? He said, one of my friends, the friend that he had received 5K from for the tax bill, reached out to me and said he's freaking out because his wife really wants to buy this house and he's short a certain amount of money to purchase this home. And obviously he was like, I feel so bad because he loaned it to me because he was trying to help me out. And my biggest strength and weakness is empathy. And when I saw him hurting because his friend was not able to do something because of the money he had loaned my ex. And at this point, I felt like the friend had loaned us the money. It wasn't like he loaned my ex the money because we were married. And so I do something so stupid and idiotic. I end up loaning him an additional 3K even a week after I had already given him 15K. So I actually ended up giving him $18,000 in the month of March of 2023. Yes.
Oh my God.
So I can send him the money. We end up going to the airport, fly to Cabo.
Okay.
We have an amazing trip. And at this point, I had just hard launched him on my Instagram Valentine's Day prior. So at this point, I hard launched him after we were already married. And we're in Cabo and I'm like posting more photos of him on my social media.
Okay.
And I'm going through my Instagram story views and I'm looking at the names and I'm seeing all of these Danish names. And I can tell they're Danish names because there's a different Danish alphabet.
What?
And so I'm clicking some of the profiles and a lot of them you can see like my ex is like the mutual, like follows them. And so
she married this man, she give him money, she posts him on her stories, and now she's coming to find out that he has other girls that's probably coming forward telling about him. We got one more part. We definitely got to do a part 2 in the morning because this is wild.
brought it up to him, like, hey, all these Danish people are watching my story, but I thought it was weird that no one was like following me. I'm like, these are your friends. Like, and I wanted him to maintain the same friendships in Denmark, even though he was moving to the States, because I never want to be the type of person that takes a man away from like his friends and family. And so I remember I'm clicking profiles, and I click a girl's profile, and I look at the first picture and I see my ex's dog. And that's something that I actually haven't mentioned. My ex did have a dog, and every time he came to visit, he had a friend that was watching the dog. And whenever he sold his place and decided that he was going to spend more time in Dallas, he ended up his dog ended up getting adopted by some people, because he's like,
whoever them people was that you saw had the picture of that dog, that's who got that dog. That's who got that dog, boo-boo. He ain't seen that dog to get adopted. That's who got that dog.
Not home enough. And at first I told him, like, bring the dog to Dallas. Like, I wanted the dog to come. He's like, no, it's fine. Like, that does not make sense to me. And I supported his decision. And he told me that the ex could not take the dog because she was in med school and was constantly out of the home, and she just did not have the capacity to take care of the dog. But I see his dog, and it's like a duck-toller retriever. I think duck-tolling retriever. I think that's how you say it. I saw his dog as a puppy on this girl's profile, and I clicked the tag, and my ex is tagged. And so I look at him, I go, is this your ex-girlfriend? He was like, oh yeah, it is. I was like, oh, so she's watching my stories. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's a little weird. And I remember checking like throughout the course of like every day for like a week, and like all these Danish people are still watching my story every day. And I'm like, don't you think this is weird that there's like 15 Danish people watching my story every day? And he's like, honestly, I just feel like they're a little bit salty that I like moved on. I'm moving to America. Like, I think they might be a little salty. And he said, you should just block them all. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is like a very toxic group of people. And so I was like, is that what you want me to do? He said, yeah, just block them all. Like, they're not here for the right reasons. They're just looking to like creep, and they're probably just talking a bunch of shit. So I said, okay. And I decided to block them all. And so basically we come back from Cabo, he stays for about a month, and then he goes back to Denmark. And at this point, he had come to visit me so many times. And so I decided, now's my time to go spend time with him in Europe. And with his dad's health and his work, it made sense for me to just, go out of my way to try to spend time with him. And I could work remote at the time. And so I board a flight, and I head to Denmark for the first time, and I land in Denmark, and I will continue on in part 10.
Oh, Lord, she went back to
The Danish Deception. The Danish Deception, part 10.
All right, y'all, this is the last part, but like I say, it's 8 parts. I don't want to be here all night, so part 2 and part 3 will be coming. Now, from what we understand, she met this man while in a trip. She took a trip, and she met him in Germany. And, she was with her friends, and he told her what kind of woman he wanted. She fit the criteria. They hooked up. She gave him a passport, a book to Denmark, to things like that. They've been traveling back and forth. They have went to Cannes, and he's been traveling more than her. They went to Cannes in Mexico. She gave him his first cash of $6,000, turns into $4,000, then add on another $8,000, and now we're going to see where the $2,000 come from. Now, she said that he came to Dallas, they got married, met her family, everything was great. She never met his family. They went to meet his family one time. It wasn't the best. Found out him and his sister had some issues and all of this and that. So now we're getting to part 10. We're going to get more into that tomorrow. Child, she said she loved them, y'all. Now, yes, she was a contestant on The Bachelor. She was. So I just want to let y'all know. She looked familiar. Yes, she was on The Bachelor, okay? She says she still got some Bachelor trauma.
So I land in Denmark after a couple of layovers, and my ex is waiting after baggage claim. He's waving a Danish flag, and I'm just so excited to be in Denmark for the first time. And so we land, we go to one of his friends' homes because we're staying there for the night. We change, and we go directly to an Easter lunch with him and all of his childhood friends. So I walk in and everyone is just so, so nice. And it's his childhood friends and like their wives and girlfriends. And everyone was just super kind to me. We were drinking, having fun. After a while, I was super jet lagged. So we ended up going back to his friend's house. That's where we stayed that night. And the following day, he gives me the hometown tour. So he shows me where he got baptized. He shows me his elementary school, and we're just exploring. And I just feel so grateful to like see his roots, see where he grew up. And after the day of exploring, we go to his parents' house. And this is my first time meeting his parents. And I am so, so nervous. I've always done really well with parents, but this is, different situation because number one, there's not a whole lot of Black people in Denmark. So they're not used to meeting people that look like me. Also, this man has made it very clear that he's moving to America. So you can only imagine how a mother might feel about the woman that's moving her son 5,000 miles away. So I was really, really nervous, but I'm not even kidding. The second I walked in, me and his mom instantly connected. And I think we bonded over our mutual love for my ex. And so it was his parents and his sister and her boyfriend that she had just recently started dating. We're all at this dinner. She cooked a very traditional Danish meal. It's called flæskesteg. I remember I had seconds, I had thirds. I think that made her fall in love with me even more because what mother doesn't want a girl that's going to eat their food? And so I brought her like a bunch of gifts, her and his father. I brought them gifts from Dallas, and we just really bonded that first day. She brought out all these photo albums and was showing me like my ex's childhood photos. And it was a really special night. And I remember my ex kept being like, are you sure you're okay with staying here? Because one thing I will say is they lived in a very, very humble home. And listen, I know there's billionaires out there that drive Honda Civics, so I don't judge. I'm never the type of person being like, why are you guys staying in this small house? Spend your money the way you want to spend your money. So I didn't think anything of it, but I was a little bit surprised. And also Denmark is not the type of place that has all these like big houses. Like a lot of the homes are small, regardless of if you have money. But again, didn't think anything of it. So we have a great dinner. The following day, we start going and having these like day trips all over Denmark and going to explore. And it's always me, my ex, and his parents. And one day we went to this area called Skagen, which is the most northern part of Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really beautiful. And it was just fun to go and explore. And we're driving home, and my ex starts yelling at his dad. His dad is yelling back. They just start going at it. And obviously they're speaking Danish. I have no clue what they're saying. My ex pulls over. He gets out of the car, storms out, starts like walking away. I get out of the car. I chase after him. I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? And he was like, my dad basically just said that he's over today. He just wants to go back and watch his game. And I was like, and he basically said he was really upset because he felt like his dad wasn't making an effort to get to know me. And that's when I realized that him and his dad had a really, really toxic relationship. And I also noticed that like they basically exchanged like 1 to 2 sentences a day. I also noticed that he wasn't as close with his sister, his little sister, because I mean, they would talk all the time. And so I thought that was a little strange too. But I don't know, I'm still trying to really understand this family dynamic. But what I do know is that he's a mama's boy. He's close with his mom, which, that was really, really important to me. There were a few things that I took away from this trip. The first being that he is a little bit embarrassed of his family's home. He kept saying, do you want to go stay in a hotel or Airbnb? Do you want to stay here? And I'm like, why would we not stay here? Like, if
Sorry, y'all.
I went to go visit my parents and I wanted to stay in an Airbnb, they'd be devastated. I was like, of course we're staying here. And he was like, I know it's not like nice. It's a super old house. You haven't renovated it. Like, I don't understand. They have all this money. Like, why don't they do it? I'm like, it's fine. Like, don't worry. We'll be okay. Another thing I noticed was that I did not meet the older sister. No one spoke of her. And I knew at this point she had one kid at this point. So they talked about her a little bit, but it was kind of like the elephant in the room. Like, no one really talked about it. And, I know they don't have a relationship. They can't be with each other in intimate settings. But overall, like, I did have a good trip with him despite the tension. So after a week, we traveled to Copenhagen. And I remember getting to Copenhagen and I'm immediately just so happy to be.
So he did tell her that his family didn't speak English. That's interesting.
there because this city exceeded my expectations. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. And we ended up staying in a hotel, like a cheaper hotel by the water. And I can stay anywhere. I'm good. I don't need to stay anywhere bougie. And I remember him being like, I hate that we have to stay here. Like, it's not nice. I'm like, I don't care. Like, we have a bed, we have a place to stay. It's okay. And so we spent that whole week just exploring Copenhagen, and then we get ready to travel to Nigeria for my grandmother's burial. And so at this point, we're staying in this hotel. And I remember there was like a laundromat at this hotel. So I was doing laundry, and he said, I'm going to go and get a few things for my storage unit because he's moved out of his place at this point. He has a storage unit. And so he comes back home and he has like this Rolex box. And he's like, oh, this is one of my Rolexes. I want to show it to you. And at this point, I had already seen his steel, what's it called? The Batman. I already had seen that watch. He had brought it out for Cabo. So I've seen one of his watches. To Patek, he sold. I never saw it. So now this is the second watch he's bringing out. And he opens it. And it's, again, I did not know anything about watches before this, but now I know it's a day-date presidential watch with a green face. So he ends up telling me this is like a $50,000 watch. I was like, this is nice. And keep in mind, we're about to leave for Nigeria in like a day. I'm like, why'd you bring it out? And he's like, oh, I'm going to bring it to Nigeria. I go, you're going to do what? Exactly. And he's like, I'm bringing it to Nigeria. I'm like, you cannot bring a $50,000 watch to Nigeria. And he's like,
you sure the hell not. She's not going to Lagos. Okay. She's not going to certain parts in Nigeria to where you have to dress in your Chanel, your best dress, your jewelry, and she's not going to that part of Nigeria. Okay, we all know Dirty December is where you listen. If you want to know if you really that girl, go to Nigeria in December. And it can't be the knockoff swap meet Chanel, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Dolce and Gabbana. No, ma'am.
Yeah, I can. And I'm like, this does not make sense. And he said, no, like, this is a special occasion. Like, I want to bring it out for this. And so I told him, okay, I feel very uncomfortable, especially like us being in the village and you're wearing this like expensive
in a village.
Watch, asking yourself to get robbed. I just did not understand it, but whatever. He ends up packing the watch. We get ready and we hop on a flight to go to Nigeria and meet my family for my grandmother's burial. Keep in mind, he had paid for all the hotels, everything in Denmark, and he paid for all the hotels and flights for Nigeria.
Let me guess.
So we hop on a plane, go to Nigeria. I'm super nervous because I just don't know what to expect and how he's going to react. But we meet up with my family, and he does so well. And it was funny because everyone wanted to take photos with him, and he was meeting my extended family, like my grandmother. I never thought I would bring a man home to meet my grandmother. I felt like I fell deeper in love with him, watching him just immerse himself in my culture and be there for my family while we put my grandmother to rest. And it was just a really amazing, beautiful trip. Honestly, there was nothing crazy that happened. And he tells me while we're in Nigeria that the law firm has settled the issue with his taxes and they're filing a document for the accounting firm to pay out a settlement, and it'll be paid out soon. And then he'll be able to transfer me the money that I'm owed. And so I'm like, oh, I'm breathing deeply. And it's awkward because I want to bring it up to him all the time, but he's also paying for everything. So I feel like I don't.
Mind y'all, he owe her $18,000. Don't choke. Don't choke. He owe her $18,000. She has sent him $6,000 to $4,000 to $8,000, $18,000. You heard me. I believe he's going to have another worse day and ask her for another $2,000 because she's saying all sums up he owe her $20,000.
To put too much pressure on him, even though I should have. So we come back to Denmark, and at this point, we are trying to figure out what our plan is when we're going to come back to the States. And he says, you know what, like, let's just go back to my parents' house in my hometown. They were actually on a vacation, so the house was empty, and we can figure out what we want to do next. And I said, okay, that sounds good. So we go to his parents' house, and at this point, I'm still working remote. So I remember I was at the dining table working, And he walks up to me and he says, I have some really, really good news. I was like, what's up? He said, my realtor just reached out to me and said there's a very wealthy family that is interested in purchasing this apartment complex. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best news in the world. And he said, there is one caveat, and I will continue on in part 11. The Danish Deception, part 10.
Y'all. So part 11, we will get into tomorrow. Child, I don't. We're gonna do part 2. Now, part 3, we're gonna get into what this man looked like. Let me see if I can pull up some of what he looked like. Let me see. Embarrassment. Here go the man. I found him. And we're gonna play a little bit what this man had to say. Oh, Jesus.
Do you have a message for your very first 4th of July as a U.S. resident?
Sure, if I can do it in Danish.
You can do it in Danish.
Okay, well, here we go. Til alle mine amerikanske venner, glædelig uafhængighedsdag. Det er en stor dag i dag. Husk på, at det er et privilegium at bo i et land med så mange muligheder, som jeg har her i USA. Jeg har været heldig at rejse til mange lande verden over og se lidt af hvert. Og
Somebody said no more. We ain't got nobody.
og jeg er taknemmelig for at være her i USA. Og af de muligheder, der kommer med det. Jeg er taknemmelig for at være omgivet af mennesker, som jeg holder meget af, og som holder meget af mig. Så
let's go see what we can find on Martin. These are the pictures. This is Martin. This the man she fell in love with that was asking her for them coins. This is him.
Day seems like I push against the cloud. They just
look at the screen.
That's mine. And
And that's
I believe in second chance, I won't be a dummy again. I'm a
Let me see if I can see that. And then we gonna get up out of here. Somebody said, get married. I telling your eat. I agree. How you didn't tell your African
eyes and blonde hair comes to you and says, I am a millionaire. I am royalty. Then the next thing he says is, I need $6,000. Are we victim blaming or are we common sense pointing outing?
And
the Danish Deception, part 1.
I'm sorry. Anika.
I'm sorry. We didn't mean to like. Oh,
we did. Onyeka.
Let's start with teaching you how to pronounce your name.
Yes.
Onyeka. Not Oniki.
Not Anika.
Not Oniki.
Onyeka. Okay. Listen, they gon' I'm gonna say it, y'all gonna be mad at me. By the way she talking, the hair behind the ears, I've noticed that too. I knew that she's been her family being in oh Lord, not all Africans are like this, okay? But I knew she grew up in the suburbs. Being in Dallas, Texas, you probably wasn't around that many black people.
But you know what? We don't want this video to go too long.
Yes.
So, as your elder Igbo sisters, we're going to drag you a little bit.
A little
And then,
bit.
okay.
A little bit.
Okay.
Girl, you fell all our collective hands.
Hell,
You
and
just
especially as an Onyibo girl.
What do you mean?
Like, why?
I knew that there was a problem when that girl could not pronounce her name.
Hell,
I knew that from that
you
moment.
allow Oyibo run.
Now
all of them run
to
street.
be honest with you,
You allow Oyibo run on
a
street.
Denmark boy.
Hey,
man,
God.
for that
And the
matter.
only reason why you accepted that was because he was white.
Yeah,
if he was Chichoke,
He was giving pictures.
and Ebuka we did not even do 1%.
Yeah.
You would have finished that.
Let's give our audience.
They tear her up, y'all. The African community is tearing her up, y'all. I hate to tell y'all, they are eating her up. They are eating her up.
I'm speaking about the Danish Deception from the perspective of a Nigerian who grew up in America, specifically Dallas, Texas. I'm not going to lie. Being an African who grew up in America, you have the option to say, I want to have more African friends. I want to have more African American friends, or I want to have a diverse group of friends. Growing up, you would see me with everybody. I might be hanging out with the valedictorians one day, but then you'll see me with the potheads the other day. You may see me with the kids that might skip school, but you'll also see me with the kids that have school spirit. I had phases. I even hung with the skaters, the stoners, because I'm someone who allowed those different experiences to shape me today. Teachers love me. Everybody loved me. I very much get being able to engulf yourself in these different environments, have that option to explore. But then there's a specific type of Nigerian. And if you're Nigerian, you know the whole colonial mentality. Like,
I ain't gonna lie. I had to play this. I'm not gonna lie. I sense that. Now, remind you, I'm a Florida girl. I have grown up around Africans, Latinas, Asians, whites, and remind you, Haitians, Caribbean islanders, right? Jamaican, and So I see how she is because I've seen a girl like that before. And they like she said, there were certain ones that hang with everybody. But she's going to break down to you who this young lady is that we just watched that's telling her perspective on dating a Danish man. And then we're going to go into part 2.
They put white people on a pedestal and they view them very closely with God. They look at them as superior, like superior to them, like past them, past their own superiority. And we just have to admit, she's one of them.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't know that. That's why they drag her. Bro, we gonna go back. We gonna go back. I didn't know that.
Like past them, past their own.
She did the deep dive. I was gonna do the deep dive on her. So she follows Trump, JD Vance, and Candace Owens. That explains why they are tearing her up. That's why that tribe she's from is tearing her up. It makes sense. Because remember in the first video where they was like, why is the hair between your ears? Like, what are you doing? Okay.
Superiority. And we just have to admit, she's one of them. She's definitely somebody who puts white people on a pedestal. And
I'm not gonna lie, I have argued about the impact of Nigeria. There are some Nigerians who think like this young woman and tell people, hey, listen, shut up. You guys can't talk for us, because they're speaking on the Nigerians that put the palm colored people on a pedestal that sit here and like, oh yeah, like Trump driven. They put him on a pedestal, and those Nigerians that are coming out telling, listen, we don't need y'all speaking for us. Shut up. They are saying that. And I applaud the ones that's been coming in my comments, no, and telling the truth than the ones that have bashed me, because the ones have bashed me, they have been handled by them. So that's an applauding moment.
I don't even want to make this about white people. Putting anybody on a pedestal is crazy. People should be putting you on a pedestal. If you want to talk about pedestals, grow up in a very loving household. She looked like she grew up in a very loving household, and you can be sheltered. I'm not going to lie. Like, I myself have been sheltered to a lot of things, and I'm not trying to sit here and make it seem as though like I needed to go through the struggle. But sometimes when you're sheltered, you don't have the same experiences as other people. So she just looked at things through glitz and glams, through rose-colored glasses, and she needs to admit that herself. Because I myself am not afraid to admit that being sheltered from the world has protected me from some of the evils that you inevitably have to go through, that people who have experienced hardship would have been able to point this out. You have to admit to yourself that being sheltered, which is not a bad thing. It's not every day everybody has to experience chaos in their life.
She's right though. I've watched Sophiology and I don't get that from Sophiology. Shout out to Sophiology. Child, let me go to one more, honey.
She is apparently from this tribe in Nigeria called Aingo. And I know, I'm so sorry if I butchered it. This is a large ethnic tribe in Nigeria, and apparently they are very big on you paying a dowry. Those of you guys who don't know what a dowry is, it is something that was very common back in the days where a groom's family would bestow gifts or they would bestow payments on.
He didn't have that payment to give because he was taking it from her. That's why she married him at a courthouse and ain't say nothing. Because she has a dowry that has to be paid. And it seemed like her family, and there's no shade to them, I think they knew that they felt that his mind, because of the things that they heard from him, oh my God, my daughter is going to marry someone very, very rich. And he can pay for her. And I want to know what her parents thought of them being married without that situation.
The bride's family in exchange for her hand in marriage. It's not commonly done today, but this culture, the Igbo Nigerian culture, still does this, and it's still very prominent. So my question is, how did he work around that? How did you guys work around that? Too. Especially with him being like this Dutch king or prince or whatever the hell he told you he was, like, that means that he comes from a family that is rooted in tradition. So if he really did want your hand, the dowry would not be something that he would bark at. A real prince or king or whatever you want to call him would have no issue making this payment because, let's be real, any type of royalty is deeply rooted in tradition. Like they understand tradition more than the average person. So I'm curious as to what the workaround was there, or even if they had that like conversation. Really invested to know like where her family is with this, especially her mom and her dad, because I'm sure they know by now. And it's like, you haven't just brought shame to yourself and to your parents, but you've also brought shame.
The truth about the Danish Deception is out. I remember I made two videos saying that Onyeka and the family were just being desperate. So a member of the Igbo community in Dallas has just spoken. Please, just calm down and listen to this video.
She used to bring him around. So we have this organization. She used to bring him around so much, right? We already knew there was something going on. But, you know, as the whole family, including her sisters, they're all white. You know, like they're all white. They all have like white friends, white crew, right? So we didn't like that. So she was part of this organization that we were.
Wait. What happened? Hold on. Let's continue.
All part of. It's called like UIU, right? And she will bring him everywhere, like every time. And mind you, they were still dating at the time. They were not even married. So we felt like, why are you bringing this guy? You guys are not married yet.
So the people that's saying, well, why is her having white friends a problem? Nigerians and what they're going through are based of most Africans, most of them feel like you have to be careful around palm colored people for reasons. Some of them feel that way. It's not because you have that, but it's because, like the girl said, she doesn't surround herself with others. So she's going to have that. Be honest with you, that colonization shit they don't like. Okay, I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's colonizations they don't like. It's a colony thing to them. Because if you pay attention, I'm going to do a live on it tomorrow as well, where most of the palm-colored racist people go to Africa, unaliving their animals, stuff like that. They have a problem with, like, people got to understand, like, it's not, they don't take lightly to that.
Bringing him around us. Do you get what I'm saying? Now is a group that is mainly for like Igbo people, but why are you bringing them around us? Do you get? Yeah, because you shouldn't be bringing him around us if you guys.
She is apparently
The truth about the Danish deception is out.
Mental, right? So that the family is.
So they're basically saying they're obsessed with white people.
Videos for my Igbo women and my Igbo women only. If you're not an Igbo woman, please scroll. It's none of your business. It's very urgent, very private. Girls, we need to talk. Some of you may have seen the video or you have heard of the video. It is now an international discussion topic. And it is actually going to turn to propaganda if we do not resolve the matter. I'm sorry for the girls, condolences to the girl, but if we don't fix this thing, our reputation, and I know you know what I'm talking about, our reputation will now be under threat. All suggestions are welcome. My own suggestion is that by the end of this year, we should double or triple our incoming intake.
Yeah, exactly. Tell them, girl.
Otherwise, they'll now expect us to give the money.
Come on now.
No, guys. Any suggestion, guys? Whether you're in Nigeria, whether you're in Texas, whether you're in London, UK, wherever you are, we need to come together and think balance must be restored.
Listen, ladies, Black women, we on the same page with y'all. We don't blame y'all for sitting here saying this message, because we've been saying it intake. Okay, it high. Yes, for these. Come on now, we understand. Women are talking in code now, and I love it. I love it.
We must restore the balance. This is not good. Put those face cards to work and let's fix this.
Period.
Because they need to understand that this is merely the exception and not the standard. Clarky! All suggestions are welcome. Let's talk. This video is
all right, y'all. But yeah, I'm finna get off of here. I will do part 2 tomorrow with other content. I wanted to do this one because I think it is very well, because a lot of people have deceptions when it comes to Black women as a whole. And I wanted to do this story by myself to get understanding, like, why is everybody talking about this girl like this? What is going on? Now I see why. Baby, they on your tail for the last past 8 days. Ain't no river wide enough. Ain't no mountain high enough. I'm sorry, ain't no river deep enough for them to get off your ass. I'm sorry. It's no shade, but I knew when she did this story there were going to be a lot of people to come out and say, Remember Kiki Jones? They was like, no, girl. No, like, this is what she really does. I knew it was going to be some things uncovering about her and her family. But we will do a part 2 tomorrow, and then we're going to do a part 3. I want to thank you guys for watching, man, hitting that like button. And if you watch the replay, baby, get you some popcorn and wine, because it's a journey. And I hope she learned from this, and I hope she take a lot from this. But don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. We'll do part 2 tomorrow. Bye.
It's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally.
Birds singing in the dead of night.